the side-by-side thing is, I try to be charitable for most of them.
Yeah, same.
Right. And there are good ones.
Oh,
out there.
absolutely.
There are really nice folks out there that are just like driving out in the country and enjoying the outdoors like the rest of us. Right. Because I try not to be like an elitist.
Yep.
Because they have just the same amount of rights to be out there.
Yeah. And every user group has their bad apples, you know.
Right.
And then unfortunately, yeah, the louder and more obnoxious ones are the ones that really stick out. And yeah, you're right. I think by and large, all the motorized groups, every user group is pretty respectful. But yeah, the fact that I, kind of live on public lands, it's kind of a constant thing for me dealing with and it's been an increase, I think, over, the last 10 years or so, that they're becoming more and more prevalent. And yeah, to me, it's all about the noise. Even if people are super respectful, like I've had people pass my campsite at 2 miles an hour, their maximum respect. And it's still just incredibly, disturbing because they're just so loud. I don't really understand why there aren't better noise laws against certain engine types, or why they have to be that loud. But
right. And well, so the evolution was sort of, because I grew up riding quads and motorized vehicles for hunting, also for recreation. And when I was a kid, it was fun to go fast.
Sure.
It was fun to drive a thing fast when I was an 18-year-old boy, and that kind of evolved, but we wouldn't be doing it at night a whole lot. And there was a thing that shifted with the side-by-sides where it became a night sport, a night activity with the lighting, and the
huge
partying,
LED giant strips and the little
the light bars, and the light up bright Christmas light looking situation. Yeah, and I've been on bikepacking trips deep on the backside of Mingus Mountain, and there's people out there ripping side-by-sides at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, it's I've had it definitely where I'm camping and that sort of thing happens. And sometimes the worst is when they just seem to be driving around in places where people popular dispersed camping areas. It's take your side-by-side out and go have fun outside, but try not to disturb other people. But sometimes they just do laps on the gravel graded roads.
Yeah.
It's frustrating for me, but that's just kind of disrespectful behavior that, like I said, I think every user group has its bad apples.
I mean, they were trying to do a thing in Arizona a year ago or so where they were requiring a safety and training course, and then requiring driver's license for certain age groups. I think you had to be over 18 or something to drive one. And I don't know whatever happened with that, but it was hope that there was going to be some sort of management on it. But,
yeah, I would be all in favor of that.
Yeah.
And noise ordinances as well. I get the whole thing that people want to go fast, and I like to go fast on my bike as well, Yeah. But why do they have to be that loud? There's ways to have powerful engines that are not that loud, especially when I said, when people were being respectful driving by at 2 miles an hour, and you can still hear them 2 miles down the road.
Yeah.
It's just there's no reason for that I know of.
On the bright side of that loudness has actually saved me coming, because I can hear them coming.
Mm-hmm.
Bikepacking, where I can hear them a long ways off. So, but yeah, well, the little ones don't have that. I like the little rhinos and the more utility vehicles. It's like the razors,
right?
That are big, loud, a lot. I don't know. It's interesting. It's kind of reminds me of a couple times of memory when snowboarding came onto the scene, and all the skiers hated snowboarders so much. Do you recall this time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Were you a skier or a snowboarder?
I was, yeah. I grew up in Salt Lake City, and
okay.
So yeah, I watched a lot of those resorts slowly open up to snowboarding, and it was a new thing when I was a teenager. So yeah, I was definitely in the middle of that, and I was a skier, and I've actually never snowboarded.
Really?
But I didn't. I mean, it seems like fun to me.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go back to skiing, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I gave my snowboard to my nephew. I was like, I'm done. I just haven't done it in a long time. It just seemed look, I'm really looking forward to being able to sit on the lift normally, to sit the way that the lifts were designed. They were never designed for snowboarders.
Makes sense.
Right, with the weird, like, goofy footed thing where you're holding your board out like this. And, but I remember, man, it was you were such a rebel to be a snowboarder. There was like a whole cultural, you know, studded belt, cigarette smoking, sort of like rebellious vibe to it. And then now it's like in the Olympics and all that magic is gone.
Yeah, it seems hilarious now to think that riding a snowboard would be rebellious.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it had the rail. You know, I guess there was lots of jumps and rails and tricks and stuff with skiing, too. Mm. Did you ever do any of that? Like,
no, I mean, I threw myself off like cornices and stuff, but I never got into like ramps and half pipes and stuff like that.
Backcountry, big backcountry cornices? And
yeah, well, more still in resorts. I never really got into backcountry, but when you get to certain places, you can find like the backcountry areas of the resort, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I did backcountry one time off at Snowball in Flagstaff, where we just went to the very top and we hiked like an hour, just opposite direction of the ski area. And then we ended up getting into some places where for a second there, I thought like, man, this could be really bad, really fast. And I didn't have a tracker or anything at that time. I wasn't carrying like, you know, it was very irresponsible in that moment, but I was like 20 or 21 or something. Yeah, it was all right. And then we'd shoot out on Snowball Road and then hitchhike back up to the top, right? And then just lap that all day. But yeah, well, hopefully we don't have any side-by-sides come by us today. So Scott Morris, welcome to the Endurance Studio officially.
Thank you. Welcome to Tucson.
Yeah, thanks. It's good. This is my hometown. Sarita. So, yeah, it's awesome to have you on the podcast. I first thing I wanted to do was officially knight you as the Dot Father. I want this to spread. So you are the Dot Father. You're the source, man. You know, you operate in the background a lot of things, but we first actually came into contact when I started working on Pinions and Pines, and we started working on race organization together and tracking in that way. I mean, actually, the first time I emailed you a long time ago was way back when I was panicking about my dot pinging, like in my neighborhood or something.
Okay.
And I emailed you and said, what's going to happen? I was so green. I didn't know the whole deal, you know? And then many years later we connected through Pinions and Pines. And then I heard you on the Bikes podcast.
Shell Money. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's where, I mean, I was riding the Arizona Trail 300 when I heard this podcast with you on it. And it blew my mind. I was like, oh, I didn't know there was this sort of history with you. So as far as I can tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to stroke your ego here a little bit.
Oh,
so you get ready for that. I can tell how much you want to like. So you're the rare person who you basically built the Arizona Trail Race, from my understanding.
Started it.
Yep. Worked with the National Park Service to get the Grand Canyon Portage thing.
A little bit, yeah. I obtained the permission for it for the first time, and like I guess came up with that idea, and never really approached them officially about the race. Though it was more, I toured the Arizona Trail first with a buddy of mine who lives down in Tubac, Lee Blackwell, and we toured the Arizona Trail from end to end, and as a part of that trip, that's when we came up with the idea to cross the Grand Canyon with bikes on the back. And so we weren't racing. I had no delusions about an Arizona Trail race at this point at all. I just wanted to ride my bike and see the whole trail. And, then the question becomes like, what do you do about the Grand Canyon? And everyone who had done a through bike trip on the Arizona Trail before us, which was 3 or 4 people, had done different things. One person had ridden around the Grand Canyon on Highway 89, which is a terrible idea.
Super dangerous.
Yeah. Yep.
No
And then,
shoulder. Yeah, that's scary.
very scary. So we didn't want to do that. And then the first people to ever ride the Arizona Trail was Andrea Langford and Beth Overton. And Andrea was a park ranger in the Grand Canyon, and she arranged to get her bike shuttled basically from rim to rim. And then they just hiked unloaded, or like backpacked across. And that didn't jive with me either, because I had this like whole self-supported ideal kind of thing going in my head at that point. So I want to be like totally do this on our own. And but then, yeah, as it happened, Lee knew like the number 2 or number 3 superintendent at the park at the time, and he was able to get a meeting with him, and that guy was like all enthusiastic about it. He was like, and that's where the idea of as long as the wheels don't touch the ground, you're allowed to carry your bike across the canyon. So, but now the race I never interfaced with any land agency or manager or anything, well, voluntarily.
Yeah.
I just, followed the non-commercial guide, Forest Service guidelines, 74 person, all that.
Right.
That this is an event, but it's a non-commercial event that doesn't need a permit, doesn't need any oversight, environmental, all that stuff. And you just, as long as you follow those guidelines. But yeah, so I hadn't.
But you were the first guy that was like so dead set on carrying, so dead set on being self-supported that you were hard-headed enough to think you could carry your bike through the Grand Canyon and like create that experience that most people call the hardest thing they've ever done in their entire life.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the hardest things I've ever done. But yeah, and we really weren't sure it was a good idea at all. We were pretty intimidated by it.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Why were you so fixated on this self-supported route as opposed to just taking a shuttle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I knew about the Great Divide race at that point, and so I was already being influenced by my friend Mike Kuriak, and he's really kind of the father of like our current self-supported racing ideas and rules and everything. But at that point, all there was the Great Divide race, and the Grand Loop wasn't even happening then either. But and so I had read those rules, and I kind of just was enamored with that concept, I guess, even though I had absolutely no thought of putting a race on myself at that point. But yeah.
Did you have sort of self-supported ethos built into you from a kid? What were your parents like?
I think as like my natural disposition, I think I do. Yeah, where I just don't like to rely on other people, which is a good thing, and also is has its faults.
Yeah.
As well. And so, yeah, I would say, and I grew up, just got into mountain biking at a very young age, absolutely fell hard for it as a teenager, and then just kept pushing my rides longer and longer and bigger, and was always out there by myself. And I think, so that was probably why it spoke to me as well, is that I just, I think that's part of why it fits so well with mountain biking in general, is there's just normal riding. You have to be a level of self-reliance to even just mountain bike.
Right.
Yeah.
And the longer you're out there, the more it increases on self-reliance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And running, like to contrast it, running, you can't really. Biking allows you to move from point to point to be able to be self-reliant. Whereas running, gets very difficult. Like the planning has to be higher. It's just way harder to get basically from water source to water source.
Absolutely. And that's why all the ultra runs have aid stations, right, and pacers and, all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's possible. I mean, there's people who do unsupported ultra stuff.
Absolutely.
It's just a very, very, very small group of already small group of people. Right.
Yep.
So, and then you also after you came up with this concept of going on the Arizona Trail and carrying a bike through the Grand Canyon, at some point you were also developing the support software to map this stuff with TopoFusion and track the stuff with what we all know as Trackleaders, right? And you, I think, went to school for computer science.
That's right. Yeah. I went to the University of Arizona here in Tucson.
Okay.
Yep. For about 10 years.
Okay.
I maxed out the PhD program.
Okay.
by riding my, I was a really good student in some ways and a terrible student in other ways because I was so distracted by my bike and so enamored with this, the Sonoran Desert and the diversity here and the mountain biking. And it was just such a big, amazing area to explore. It was all new to me when I moved here to grad school that I was like, yeah. But I also got my work done for the most part.
Yeah.
But like, for example, when I did the Arizona Trail as a through trip, I did that in April and that was in the middle of the semester. And I was a grad student, full-time PhD student. I honestly don't know how I pulled that off.
Yeah.
It took us a month. I think we were out there for 26 days, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that time, it is probably barely resembles what the Arizona Trail is now.
Yeah. And we were trying to do the stupidest possible Arizona Trail as well. Like we carried our bikes through the superstitions on this route that went around the wilderness area and like connected these roads where there was like 6 or 7 miles of no trail. And like we tried to ride every piece of legal Arizona Trail that existed.
Yeah.
And then of course it wasn't. And then there would be sections where it was built and then there'd be like 2 miles and there was no trail and we would just bushwhack between and then pick it up at the other side. But
so what were you using for navigation at that time?
I had a Garmin GPS and yeah, that was crucial, especially for that case where like the trail wasn't built in a piece. I'd be like, I know exactly where it's going to start again.
Right.
But yeah, I was the big time GPS nerd back in those days.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, so what year was this approximately?
2005 is when we did the through trip on the Arizona Trail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was a moment in time, or a few years, I would say, that it seems like GPS technology sort of came online and like quietly kind of revolutionized how everything is done. And you were sort of cognizant of that and wanting to leverage it for your hobbies, activities, what you turned into your life now. Were you like aware of that, or you just think it was a cool technology and you could?
Yeah, no, I saw it as the new thing that was just very, very exciting and had all these unexplored potentials. And yeah, I saw some commercial opportunities and also just research opportunities. I did my PhD was all related to trail, like GPS and route and trail related topics, also some computer vision and AI there related to trails, but it was all like no one's doing this stuff yet, like because GPS existed and then for the first several years they had like this error signal. Did you ever hear about that, called selective availability?
No.
Like the military was worried about civilians using it basically and having access to the same technology that they have, so they actually added an error signal to the GPS, so it would just like jump around randomly. You download your track and it would be more or less what your ride was, but all of a sudden it would just jump, like 500 meters to the north and then jump back. And they turned that off in 2001 maybe.
Whoa.
Somewhere in there.
So they were intentionally creating like static in the signal basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It makes you think, what are they doing now?
Right.
With the stuff that's, if they're doing that back then, of course they're doing it now.
They've got backup plans on backup plans too for all that. Yeah.
I mean, dude, if you think about it, if GPS went away, let's say there was a solar flare, right? And it knocked out a bunch of satellites, because GPS doesn't work without satellites, right? That's the whole deal. And it knocked out a bunch of satellites. How many systems would be disabled?
Yeah, it would be chaos here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like such a house of cards, and slowly built up over, 20, 30 years. The whole military, I mean, everything in the military has to be just all run on. So I don't know what kind of backup systems they have, but But you know, and the other component of this, bringing it now is Starlink and low orbit satellite systems.
Yep.
Kind of taking revolutionizing access to the internet in a different way and access to GPS in a different way. How has that changed? I mean, other than you just being able to camp and work, right? I mean, that wasn't possible before Starlink, was it?
No, it was. Yeah, I've been fully mobile since 2016, so
Whoa.
10 years now. And I only got Starlink. Well, it only became available as like the mobile RV version, I think 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I jumped on it as soon as I could. But before that, I just hotspot on my phone.
Really? And you'd find campsites that had decent 5G or LTE or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And cell booster, that helped. But yeah, it depends on what your work is. You know, some people, if you have to do a lot of video conferencing or really high bandwidth stuff, you wouldn't have been able to do off your phone. But I was able to make it work for years. Starlink's just nicer. It's just, you know, it's like having real Wi-Fi in a house. And
right.
And you get the bonus that, you can camp in, like, whole new areas opened up to me where I can now camp and work where there was no cell signal at all. So, yeah. So it's changed the game, and it's continuing to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back, you have you worked like a real job, or has it been Trackleaders been from the beginning? Tell me the story.
Okay.
Like after college.
Yeah. Have I ever worked a real job? I think I'm going to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was in school forever and, a grad student. And then I was starting my businesses while I was still a grad student. And I wouldn't consider, I was like a teaching assistant and research assistant. That sort of had a fellowship for a while.
That question may have come off wrong. I wasn't trying to diminish that Trackleaders is a real job. I just mean like a job that you have to go in and sit in an office and do some crap you don't want to do, right?
Oh,
that's what I meant.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm taking it that way. Yeah. No, I haven't had like a real office job. I worked for Maxis, which is the company that made SimCity. You ever play that game?
Oh, hell yeah. Dude. Yeah.
So I worked for Maxis when I was in high school.
I played Sim Ant. You remember Sim Ant?
Yeah, they had lots of spin-offs after that. I worked on Sim Golf, which was a total disaster and never went anywhere. So in high school, I was like super excited about computer games. I'm a big computer nerd and everything, and got this job, and I was like, this is going to be the coolest job. But I had this experience very, very early on that, I had to go to school and then I would go work in the evening in an office, and I was just indoors all the time. And I had to wake up before the sun was up to get into school. And then the sun would go down while I was working in the evening. And like that experience just like soured the whole office working thing for me for life. And I was like, I've got to figure out a way to do something different. So that was the closest thing I ever came to a real job, only because I was still in school at the same time too. But once I finished my PhD, I just sort of jumped right into continuing to do TopoFusion and Trackleaders, and slowly built over the years. But no, I've been able to avoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the dream for
some people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not for everyone. Yeah. Working for yourself has its downsides, just like any job has.
So what are some of those for you? So what are some of the challenges you've had over the years?
Well, there's just basic things like owning your own business where you're never really done working. Like you can't just clock out, right? Yeah. And so there's always something going on in your head about like, oh, could I do this? Could I do that? Could be working on this. And then you have to decide how to budget your time. How much should I work? What should I work on? What's a priority? That sort of thing, which, it's a good thing in many ways, but it is, there's a few days every year when I do sort of envy an office or someone who just works a job, and they're done at the end of the day. Their weekend is totally clear, and because sometimes it just like bleeds into when when you just can't stop thinking about it, that kind of thing. So there's that. My job specifically with Trackleaders is amazing. I mean, I love it, and I'm very lucky to have it and to have it still be a thing that has value and that has value to me and the community and people want to pay for and all that. But it has great flexibility. I'm able to live, mobile. I work remote. I don't have to be in any particular place. I get to control my hours. Like, so many positives. The one downside that it has is that I never have to work like, say 10 hours in a row if I don't want to, or 8, or anything like, but I kind of have to work every day almost, because otherwise it just piles up. Like, things will and there's always something going on, and we have almost every weekend I have events going on. And so it's actually made it hard for me to ride with other people or like do events, because like people want to ride Saturday morning, or AES event is Saturday morning. I usually have 3 or 4 events starting on a Saturday morning that I've got to monitor or do something, so yeah, I think every job has its downsides.
Yeah. What about the on the tracking side of things during events, like when things seemingly might go wrong, or you have people kind of panicking? And that's got to happen a fair amount, right? Like, people panicking about a dot that it hasn't moved in a while, and so you got to get involved, or you get contacted because there's you created the dot watching phenomenon. I think you were you the first of all the current competition?
I mean, there were some sailing. I don't know that the actual concept of I think the concept of tracking people on a map, that's not completely new. I mean, we popularized it for sure.
Right.
And we were the first, I think, to do it with satellite spot trackers that were inexpensive when they first came out. We were just happened to be at the right time for that. But there had been, previous to us, and it still exists, there's a company called Yellow Brick, where it's this big custom tracker that sits in a Pelican case. It's like a huge thing. Like, you would never carry it on a bike, right? But they had been tracking sailing and adventure races before we came around with that type of technology. But so it was when Spot came out in 2008 or so that it became possible for the kind of endeavors that we are more interested in running, and all these other lightweight backcountry stuff that really opened it up. So yeah, and I'm not. So yeah, there's always someone that did it before, even if it was on a small scale, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
You applied it to the sport. Mm-hmm. Because now there's like plenty of competition, out there. There is other groups doing it, and how has that affected your business?
Yeah. Like, I saw the race you're doing, the Sour, that's Follow My Challenge. There's always been somebody out there doing something similar, but it's growing. It's we feel a little bit like there's more competition out there right now, but I don't think it's a bad thing either, though. I think that number one, there's still plenty of events out there, and from my perspective, I think we have just about as many events as we can handle.
Yeah.
In a year, so losing 1 or 2 is not here and there is not a big deal. When it's an event that I personally care about, that's when it bothers me more. Like, when with you guys with Pinions and Pines, I was like, oh well, that's an Arizona event. That's one I follow. That's a cool one. I want to track that. So that's when I reached out to you guys and was like, hey, yeah, we can get the rentals on time. We can do a better job there. Right. And I think, as you've said on this podcast too, having competition around is not a bad thing, as far as it keeps us a little more honest. And there's also the concept of the rising tide raises all boats, and I think we're all getting better. Anything that pushes us all to be better at our jobs is a good thing too. So, but yeah, I'm not particularly bothered by any of the competitors that are out there.
Yeah. Well, they're probably existing because there's an unmet need, possibly, which is probably a capacity thing, or was at least from 2020 to 2024 or 25 maybe. Mm-hmm. Did you see a huge rise in the need for trackers kind of mid post COVID?
Not huge, no. I think a number of smaller bikepacking races popped out because people had the time to start stuff that was kind of going on in the back of their minds until COVID. And they're like, hey, I can start this race that I've always wanted to do, go scout the routes and get it all figured out. But a lot of those haven't turned into big ones that I can tell. So I think the number of events has, kind of got a little boost after COVID, but our overall tracking load hasn't increased hugely since then. Just kind of slowly increasing every year, I would say.
Yeah. It seems like every time I look, there's more. Every time I look on the Trackleaders main page, there's just more. So it just seems like it picked up steam. Then you decided to go into, or you had the opportunity to start tracking things like Cocodona. How has that sort of affected your business, or you've ridden that wave a little bit?
Yeah, the ultra running thing has been pretty good for us, but we've always been a multimodal. I think a lot of people in the bikepacking world, understandably, only see our bikepacking races, but we've been tracking dog sled races almost since the beginning, and that's one of our biggest, or probably one of our busiest months is February, because we just have so many mushing and other winter, also fat bike and ski races we do. And then, and then running's a little bit newer for us though, because I think the runners were a little late to see the value in it.
For sure.
But, and that is an increasing field, because I think there's still races that they're still kind of late to the game there, where they're like, oh, this is something that we want now. And that's a more challenging thing for us to do as a small company, because like Cocodona, they need hundreds of trackers.
Yeah.
And so we have to own hundreds of trackers, and we have to have the service plans to activate hundreds of trackers. But then it becomes a game of we only activate them and own them for one event. It's some maximum number, we want to use it multiple times in the year. So we got to find some other events that need that many trackers, and there aren't that many out there yet. But we do, Candace's race series, the 200s, which predated Cocodona,
right,
by a number of years, and her events are quite large as well.
Yeah, that's Arizona Monster. Is the newest one. Right. Candace is putting Tahoe,
Bigfoot.
Yep.
Moab.
Yep. So were you doing those before Cocodona?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you had to, and those are all mandated spot trackers.
Correct. Yeah, with spot traces.
Dude, what a logistical pain that must have been the first time to figure out, to mandate all that, to go from a bikepacking race that maybe you rent 40 trackers at most,
mm-hmm.
to 500.
Yeah, Cocodona might be more than that this year, but because they want to track the shorter distances.
Yeah.
But and that's actually we still have to figure that out a little bit. But we've been doing races with 200 or 300 for quite a while, though, I would say.
So you have a crate full of 300 spot trackers somewhere.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you have to change 4 batteries on 300 spot trackers.
So that's what
I don't.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm mobile, so I can't have 400 trackers, and I can't ship and receive. So my business partner, Matthew Lee,
right,
he does all the hardware work. Right. Yeah.
Okay, so he kind of fulfills all the stuff, and yeah. And did you guys started Trackleaders together?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he kind of is sort of loosely affiliated with the Tour Divide, right?
Also correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we met at the second year of the Great Divide race, which is the predecessor for Tour Divide. And I started that year. Matthew Lee was that year. And then later, a couple of years later, there was kind of this period of the Divide Wars when there was Matthew started his own race called Tour Divide, which was in had some differences to the original Great Divide race. And then, and Trackleaders really came about because of that race, because of Tour Divide. It's the original thing that we ever tracked. And it came out of the need that Matthew saw he wanted to bring that race home. Like he would go ride his bike across the country and ride the Great Divide race. And I think no one could really get their heads around it, like understand what that means. Like, what do you mean you rode your bike, you raced your bike across the country, like self-supported, and also he's trying to promote, I think, the event to a small extent and get it out there. And at the same time, around 2008, the Spot Tracker became a product that Global Star put out on the market, and it was just the perfect thing to track a backcountry, bikepacking race. And so Matthew was really the one who saw the potential there, that we have this new format of racing. There's no way to spectate it. It's self-supported. You don't even want spectators out there. But here's this new technology. So he contacted Spot, and they actually they gave Tour Divide, a small fleet of trackers with service and everything. We're talking like 20 or 15 or something, because that's how many people were doing the race at that point. But then he needed someone to do the software and someone to do the programming. And so he was in my ear from the very beginning, because he knew I'd done TopoFusion and knew that I was working on my PhD and doing all sorts of GPS nerd kind of stuff. And he actually offered, I think this was in 2009, he offered to let me use that fleet of Spot Trackers that he had as like a demo sponsorship fleet in the Arizona Trail Race. And I turned him down. I said no. I said, I feel like this is going to fundamentally change like the aspect of the self-supported, ethos, and like I didn't want the attention on the event because it's underground event. I didn't want like land managers, a newspaper, or anybody to know about it. So I flat out turned him down and said no thanks. And then somehow in the next 2 or 3 months, I changed my mind and decided to see that like, no, this is something that seems really cool, and like that applies my skills as well, like the stuff that I already knew and like code that I'd already written. And I was like, yeah, I want to be in on this. And so 2009 was like the first time the Trackleaders website existed, and we tracked Tour Divide that summer using that same fleet. And and then it just went from there.
Did you ever imagine it would become what it is now? Like you'd influence this many people's lives?
That's a good question. I think we knew we were onto something as far as like that it had a lot of potential. And also I think we were thinking more like, because at this time there was only like 2 or 3 bikepacking races, worldwide. And so we thought that was going to grow, but not to the point. I don't think we imagined that there would be hundreds of races like there are now,
Yeah.
And so we were more focused on like what other types of travel and events can we apply this to. But that was tough work in the beginning too. I mean, we seeded a lot of events where we tracked it for free. It was just like, hey, we've got these trackers. But from our perspective, we had to build it. We had to build the demand. And we had these devices that were sitting idle most of the year. And like we needed to get them out there and moving and being used. And I needed the testing of like live dots going around on maps to like figure out all my bugs and make my, decide how I wanted to design everything. So, but yeah, we found enough takers. It was slow for the first 5 or 6 years or so. It was not what you would consider a full-time job at all. I was working hard on it and getting paid very little, but it was, it slowly built momentum over the years, and more and more people saw how cool it was to, how excited people get, blue dot junkies, and how how awesome a thing that it is. So,
and I mean, that work has to never end as far as the development side of the software. Like there's always, when it's integrating with something else, there's always something that can break, right?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of maintenance that goes on behind the scenes just to keep it running, a production system running. Yeah. But this brings me to your comment, I think, from a recent podcast.
Yeah, I made some speculations. Yeah. So I was trying to bait you into doing a podcast, so it worked.
It worked. I bit hook. Yep. Yeah. No, I sorry. I enjoyed your speculation on that quite a bit.
Yeah, so let me recap it. Let me recap so I think the things I said, this was the Dexter Copus episode. One was that I was thinking that maybe perhaps you wanted to take a buyout, be like a tech millionaire, and hopefully somebody would come along and buy Trackleaders, like most startup tech companies, right? That's all where that came from. And two, the speculation about, I think, getting rid of the hardware itself. I'm not sure if that's what you caught your ear.
Yeah, I think you also speculated that that about the reason that like the interface hasn't changed for a long time.
Right.
And so I totally understand where that comes from, because it hasn't changed for many, many years. But I guess I can see how from the outside it seems like it's stagnant perhaps. And but there's a few reasons for that, and one is just that I just don't have the time to do like the extra development work that I wish I could do, because it just takes so much effort to run the events and do all the correspondence on everything, because we just don't have, we're kind of reaching our limit of the number of events we can handle per year. I did want to say also that I also get comments from people who appreciate the fact that it has not changed, that we're not like constantly tweaking. Like they go to an event that's covered by Trackleaders and they know how to follow it. They know where everything is. It's not confusing, and it's like a very known quantity. So I think there's some value in that too. It might just be justifying my own laziness, but yeah. But I do have lots of ideas for new features and things, and I often can't get to them. But there is a lot of work in the background too that's just maintaining stuff that I wish I didn't have to do.
Right.
And like adapting to whatever new things come in, that things that change and break and stuff. Yeah, because it's a fairly complicated system behind the scenes these days.
Yeah. Well, and there are a lot of features that are on it that aren't on other platforms that I like. I'm trying to navigate the competition right now with Sour, and follow my challenge, and it's just different, and I'm so ingrained in Trackleaders from watching hundreds of replays. That is probably the key feature I use Trackleaders for, that I found over time is when I'm preparing for a race, I'll go back and watch a replay. I'll find somebody I know who's like benchmarked close to my pacing, and the historical data is so useful for that, right, when I'm going into an unknown race. But it also changes the dynamic of a self-supported race, like when you have data available that makes it, I wouldn't say easier, but it makes you be able to be more precise with your planning when you wouldn't have. So it's good for me. I love it, but I could see how like it changes the sport a little bit, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like it's you're like, because you've put this stuff out there, it's changing the experience a little bit for people, good or bad, right?
Yeah, and from the beginning, we always wanted all of our trackers to be like an archive of what happened in the race.
Yeah,
and some other platforms don't seem to adopt that idea, where it's like when the race is done, you can't really tell what happened.
Right.
It's really just a live product, which I'm not a fan of. But you're right, it does absolutely make planning. It helps planners, but it is kind of giving away some secrets in a way, And I think in the old days there were some people who had some reservations about that too, where they they didn't want people to know, how much they slept and where they slept and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it feels like we're in a bridge between two approaches right now with bikepacking. There's like the old curmudgeons, which I'm half in. I'm half an old curmudgeon. Where sometimes I feel like going into a race, I actually don't want to know what it's going to be like. I don't want to watch. Like when I did CTR, my parents were sending me the videos of the people who had done it and done really well produced videos of it before. And I couldn't get myself to watch it because I wanted to like experience it for the first time in that moment,
Good for you. Yeah, I like that.
But then there are other races that I'm like, I don't know. I guess it's whatever my goals are for that race, right? And CTR was really like, I want to take this all in. I don't have the ability to just do these races every year like a lot of people. So this was my one shot,
Yeah.
Maybe not forever, but at least like for the foreseeable future of my path of bikepacking. And, but yeah, what, in Trackleaders, if there was one metric that you could incorporate, if you could wave a wand and have a metric or a biometric, what do you think it would be?
A biometric, like some other piece of data that I could get from racers?
Yep. Let's say like they could be equipped, like you could get it.
Like power or something.
Mm-hmm.
Power would be pretty interesting, or heart rate.
Right.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, like you can see it in the Tour de France these days, right? Like live power outputs.
Right.
Power would be pretty cool. That is one thing that. But I wish there was some like biometrics that we don't even have that, like the medical technology yet. Like, I don't know, some way to measure your, your hydration level or some indication of how the person is doing, like objectively.
Right.
Which I guess power could be like, if you know their average power or their, their threshold power or something, then you see that all day they were just tanked on power, that would be cool.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, because sometimes I'll get this feedback a lot, like from people who watch my track. They'll say, "Oh, it looked like you really struggled in that section," and I actually felt great in that section. It just was a slower section, right? I was just having to move differently, so like the perception is different for the people watching than the person experiencing it, right?
Yep.
And that's constant. So there are metrics in training, like. Training stress score, which are like aggregate of your heart rate and your power and all this stuff. I wonder if you could somehow do it with the data you're getting with elevation and speed or something, like perceived effort,
Right.
I know there's a few different softwares out there that give you like a perceived effort score or intensity factor, I think they call it. And these are all like trademarked,
right?
The people like own these phrases.
Yeah, and I've done a little bit of that with TopoFusion, where I like looked at computing power for runners based on a GPS file. Like I did some pretty early work on that. So it is possible. You'd need to like know people's weight and age and stuff like that.
Right.
But you could collect that.
You'd have to create a athlete profile for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Probably put in their FTP score would be helpful. Probably their functional threshold power, because then you could benchmark. Yeah, I wonder what heart rate. Heart rate data is an indicator, but it is sometimes all over the map. Power is definitely way more consistent than heart rate.
Yep. But tracking data is pretty coarse also. So right now it would be like an average power of the last 5 or 10 minutes or something. So
right.
Yeah, in the future, I'm sure tracking ping rates are gonna, increase, where a biomarker like this would be probably more interesting. But it's probably coming. Heart rate, once your heart rate monitor is attached to your phone and the phone is the one doing the tracking, a lot of these biomarkers will be available to someone like me.
So I just read an article that Apple is in talks with Starlink to, I forget which model they're on, 18 maybe, I don't know. But they're looking at releasing baked in compatibility with Starlink for the iPhones.
Right. It's already in T-Mobile, right?
Yeah.
T-Mobile can talk to the the cell towers that are on the Starlink satellites, so that in certain areas you get full like SOS and texting. And then currently iPhone does Global Star through like the same network as Spot, where you can do SOS and that kind of thing. So yeah, a fully connected phone is definitely coming, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that I developed the Ping app, which I don't know if you know much about that or not.
No, a little bit, but
yeah, I mean, I don't talk about it or offer it to events like Pinions and Pines, because if there isn't at least 80 or 90% cell coverage on a route, it doesn't make sense to offer that as an option. But on some places, like for instance, Carlos, his events in Florida, he puts on a great series of events down there that we've been tracking for many years. And there's like cell signal all over the place on most of his routes. And so we're having good success down there. So what it is the Ping app is just a very simple app that is free to install on either iOS or Android, and it just makes your phone function like a Spot, basically. So every couple minutes, or depending on what the setting is, just sends your location out using the cell network. So it's very simple, very cost effective, compared to owning a Spot and having a service on it, or an inReach or whatever. And it allows tracking to be, more widespread in shorter events that are less committing and have good cell signal. And so part of the reason that I developed that is thinking ahead to when Spot basically becomes obsolete, because I think that, I don't know how many years off that is, but I mean, right now there's a great argument to having a dedicated tracker, I think. I mean, if you're talking about Cocodona, they don't want to trust people to because the problem with anything on someone's phone is that you have to trust them to to set up the app correctly and to keep their phone charged.
Yes.
Keep it out of airplane mode. Keep it there's all these things that are potential sources for error. And if you're running a professional event, paid event, and you need to keep track of everybody, giving someone a little black box that they strap onto your running vest and say go, that's what you want.
Yes.
So as long as that still is a product that is supported, I can't see it going away for events like that. And but the problem is, the company, it has to be profitable for Spot, right? And once that's not there, Trackleaders is not a huge client of Spot, right? I mean, they're much bigger than us.
Aviation.
And, there's so many other things. And that's where, when you start to get full, global coverage on a phone, it's going to really hurt both inReach and, all these other satellite constellations could be in big trouble.
So is there an app that would work not off the 5G network or not off the LTE network? It would work in airplane mode, report back, sort of like when you're tracking a route, it's because it's pulling a GPS signal, right? But it's not sending anything back. Is that right?
Right.
When it's in airplane mode.
Right. Yeah. So you have to have some way of sending data, to a satellite in order for it to get to Trackleaders.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, where, there's a big problem there. Yeah, you definitely 100% can't trust people to get all that stuff right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, most people will, 90% of people will, but that's not good enough for, Hard Rock or something. They need to know where everybody is.
There's a liability problem here, right? If you don't have that, I mean, if you instructed someone and they maybe followed the instructions and then there was an issue and you can't find them, there's a big problem. Having a dedicated piece of hardware kind of solves a lot of that.
Yep.
So
yeah, I just don't know if there's enough demand to keep those companies afloat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild how GPS sort of tracking and navigating very slowly came into the running community, and it took ultra running to push it into that community. It had been existing in bikepacking, or in ultra bikepacking, for a long time, and adventure races. But like having navigation was pretty new for folks in Cocodona just a few years ago, right, on the watch. And it took like Coros to come up with, and Garmin to come up with really good watches that have really good battery life that you can actually use your watch to navigate.
Yep.
You know, my wife, who's done Cocodona many times, kind of was like, wow, this is really nice having like off course warnings on my watch. And I'm like, yeah, we've been doing that for a long time. You know, they're still following like course markings on a 250-mile course.
Yeah, which seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
No, I was a part of that just in the mountain bike scene. I mean, people used to make fun of me for showing up with a GPS on my handlebars.
Yeah.
I showed up to the 24 hours of Old Pueblo with a GPS on my handlebars, and people were like, "Oh, you're worried you're going to get lost out there?" You know, this is like a 14-mile course. I'm like, no, I want the data. Like,
Right.
There's lots of reasons to have a GPS, but also I would do like the Soul Ride, which was a 100-mile race out here in Tucson, and I would draw the course in before, like studying the map. I would draw the course in, so I had a track, and then I was following it, and it was super valuable. Like I remember nailing a turn that everybody else missed, because I had looked at the map and studied it, drawn a track, and I had the GPS on my handlebars.
Yeah.
But nobody else had a GPS, and they just thought I was a total nerd, which I was.
Yeah. Dude, basically the same thing happened to me a couple years ago on a gravel race. I showed up with, because I was doing it was the Bear Howard it was like a 1,600-mile race in Flagstaff. And I just instinctually, just from doing bikepacking, just loaded the course up, put the head unit on, right? Showed up, and then they had hired volunteers to do all their signage, and this race sort of notoriously had like issues with aid stations being in the right place, and it was all volunteer driven, so you couldn't really get mad at anybody. But one of the course signs was put on backwards, so the arrow was pointing left when you were supposed to go right.
Oh yeah.
And I'm looking down at the navigation unit, and it's telling me to go right. I'm like, we go right, guys. And all the gravel bros are like to the left, right? I'm like, all right, you'll catch me later, but it's this way, you know? And I felt pretty smart in that moment, man. I felt like I was, you know,
Yeah.
like,
You're like, I'm using my whole brain.
yeah, yeah, not just all the blood to my thighs. Yeah. But, yeah, it's kind of interesting how long it took to get into the race scene, into the ultra running race scene.
Yep.
And how there's sort of this blend of, I always talk about this. I'm fascinated by it. One, because my wife is going deeper and deeper down into that rabbit hole, and I'm going deeper and deeper down into the bikepacking rabbit hole. And you're seeing this like blending of things, gear and technology and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know why a lot of these running races haven't mandated a navigation unit for people yet to make things easier. It just makes a lot of sense to me. Like, everybody pretty much can have access to a pretty good navigation device. It's pretty much like it's like, if you're going to get into one of these sports, that's an expectation now, and it wasn't 5 years ago. So there's still people doing course markings, and I'm like, why are we still marking these courses out here when you can just like download a line and follow it, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. You know, I mean, my race, the Arizona Trail Race, I think may have been the first race ever in the world where the course was defined by a GPS line. There was never going to be any markings. It wasn't a published route that had like cue sheets or anything, like, because an Arizona Trail bike route did not exist at that point. It was like completely up to me as to what, because you have to go around wilderness and all this stuff, like, you know. But that was one of my inspirations, I think, for that race was, and one of the realizations that made it possible is I was like, I have this technology that I can actually say, like, no, the route is this GPS line, and what you're supposed to do is follow this from start to finish. And as far as I know, that did not exist anywhere else at that point. And now, of course, like every race, I get the best route files for track leaders from bikepacking races, because that's the way everyone follows it, right? You have to have a good track. Whereas in mushing, my goodness, I mean, like I was up last night working at 10 o'clock for a mushing race that starts this morning, and they just send me like this collection of hand-drawn tracks, and like there's out and backs and loops and stuff, and no description of like what the route actually does, because it's just a map, you know. It's like, here's a JPEG of our course.
No.
Yeah. And it's like, well, it's amazing how but they're still in the world of when they do, you know, they're not very GPS savvy, obviously, number one, but none of the mushers navigate with the GPS. It's all just like they follow laths and stuff when they're out there. And their trails are usually well defined too, because they're used, or they're beat in or broken by trail breakers and stuff. So yeah, totally different world, but they're not there yet.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I picked it up. I picked up when I got, I use Ride with GPS to do the route building and stuff. And it's just, I picked it up like, oh man, this opens a whole new world of, I can look at something on a map. And then I discovered the power of heat map data, which in my opinion is like one of the single greatest advances in route making that's ever existed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Next to like developing the satellite imagery is probably the first one, right? And then the ability to put like a point, the GPS coordinate point, and then the third one's going to be the heat mapping and being able to tell if something will go or not, you know?
Yeah, whether it's somewhere that people are actually going.
Yep, and if it's gone in the last 30 days, you know, the time-based heat map data, it's huge because, you know, when we're building like pinions, we change it every year, and which is a challenge, but also really fun because you just learn so much about the area and you get to see all this new stuff and incorporate new trails and new trail systems and all that stuff. But basically it's a big game of like, where do we want to go? We kind of start with like an overall concept, like where do we want to hit? And then it's like, okay, when we're looking at the map, let's look where are all the heat map data that we could potentially put this on, and then we'll build it, and then we'll go ground proof everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to still go out and actually get eyes on it for sure.
For sure, yeah. But you know, that allows you to it just opens up. It changes the game big time. So, you know, and I picked up that mentality of like adventure route building pretty quick and got pretty addicted to it pretty quick.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah. And that must have been like when you first started looking at the Arizona Trail Race, the same sort of feeling you're getting is like, this is doable. How are we going to do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a very exciting time. Yeah.
So now you got like Kurt Ruffsnyder doing the orogenesis, doing the same sort of thing on a scale.
Mm-hmm.
On this massive scale. And for folks that don't know, orogenesis is mostly single track, I think.
It's as much single track as possible, I think
And it runs from the northern border?
Yeah, from Washington to the tip of Baja. It's the Baja Divide is actually the southern end of it.
And he just finished that. He just kind of ground proofed that.
Yep. Incredible.
In a very Kurt way.
Mm-hmm.
And it took him something like, I don't know, 3 months or something?
Yeah, I think maybe more. Yeah. I think it took him 3 months to do the CDT, and that's shorter.
Yeah.
But maybe harder, mile per mile. I don't know. But, yeah, and I don't know how much route, I mean, you know, I don't know how much route design and options he was really looking at. I know he definitely had to make some stuff up on the fly when like fires and things, and but I don't know how fully mapped that route was when he actually, you know, started it, or if he was really kind of reconning a lot of sections of it. I think probably a lot of both. But, yeah.
He's one of the few that have seemed, along with yourself, that have seemed to been able to figure out how to make this your life somehow.
Yeah,
like financially,
right. Yeah, well, and he's done it where he's still riding and racing, which is, you know, different than me.
He's sleeping now.
That's true.
He seems to be doing stuff where he sleeps.
Yeah,
more.
He did the Grand Loop not long ago, and absolutely crushed it with no sleep.
Dude, do you know what Tim Tate's doing on the Grand Loop this year?
No.
This is what I heard. I don't even know if it started or not yet. But I heard that he's going to flip a coin to determine the route direction.
The direction. I like it.
The night before.
Yeah, I like it.
The Grand Loop starts.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, dude. What a gangster.
Yeah.
Like that mentality of let's take something that's already hard as can be and just make it more complicated by changing the logistics, 12 hours before it starts.
Yeah, and for the planners, it's just going to drive them crazy.
Dude, that's bikepacking to me,
Yeah, got to keep people on their toes.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. Yeah, but that is a very, very hard route. So it is kind of funny that, like, let's take something that's one of the hardest routes around, make it even harder for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I love that concept. And I think that that's what pushes bikepacking forward has been, making things harder, not easier.
Absolutely. Yep. John Schilling is the man when it comes to that.
Totally.
I gave him the Arizona Trail Race and he just kept making it harder and harder.
Dude.
I love it. Yeah.
So yeah, you basically were the race director-ish, we would call you, from 2006 to 2019.
I think that's right. Yep.
On the Arizona Trail. And then in 19, you handed it off to Schilling.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Best decision I ever made.
Yeah. Why is that? Yeah.
Well, for me personally, I think I kind of run on the anxious side, and I really worry about people when they're out there, and I worry about the fact that I'm, quote unquote, the responsible party. And I worry about things like land. I mean, I have had land managers reach out and say like, hey, what is this? What are you doing? Like, you need a permit, blah, blah, blah. I've been, threatened by sheriffs. I've had lots of experiences where that actually has happened. Nothing bad ever happened. I never got a ticket, nothing like that, but it was close. And so I think my personality, I just sleep better at night, not as the race director of the Arizona Trail. So that's one personal reason. I think I also decided to give it up because I didn't spend as much time in Arizona, starting once I went mobile in 2016. It's too hot to be here any other time than the winter. And so and for other reasons, I was spending less time in Tucson. I felt like I wasn't very current with the trail and like what was going on, and because it's always changing, there's always reroutes and new sections. And I used to be, when I lived here in Tucson, I was really in with the trails in the AZT community as far as like, doing maintenance and doing trail building and going to events and all that kind of stuff. And so I felt like I was getting less current. And meanwhile, John was like suggesting all these route changes, like adding the single track in Gold Canyon, I think was one of the first things that he came up with. And I was like, oh, that's like amazing local knowledge right there, and like, and so he became the natural choice. And thank you, John Schilling. You are amazing. I'm so grateful to him that he's taken it on and kept it alive and got it to thrive and continue to thrive and made it his own as well too. Like I knew it's kind of hard to give something up that you care about so much and was like so special to me, but I also never felt like it was my race in a way, like the Arizona Trail, bikepacking stuff is so much bigger than any one person, and I tried to always keep my personality out of it as well. And so in a way, it wasn't really that hard to give it up. And then, my God, the timing was amazing for me because what happened after 2019, I think we were co-race directors in 2019, maybe still involved. It's like a transition year. And then COVID happened. And that was a disaster as far as like, oh, is it like safe to put events on? Is it bad ethics? Like all this. And then like several controversies happened in the next following years with like Lael and the whole film crews and self-support, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then like Austin Killips and stuff. And like every one of those, he's just been in such a tough situation. And it's like one of those a lot of times lose kind of situations where you're going to get hated no matter what you do. And man, was I glad to not be in the hot seat on that. So once again, thank you, John Schilling. You are the man. Yeah. And he's weathered it very well. I mean, he shouldn't have had to weather it as hardly as roughly as he did, but he did a great job of doing it with integrity and and keeping the race to its like original ideas and keeping it going, keeping it still a thriving thing. So.
Yeah, he totally was able, in my opinion, to find a middle ground for each controversy.
Yep.
And he did it. He found a solution that seemed the best thing that would work for all, right? In an almost impossible lose-lose scenario.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, I mean, shoot, I didn't even really put all that together in that time order, man. You sold your stock at the right time, my friend.
No, I did. I felt terrible for him also in a way, So it was like every year for the first few years there, it was just like, man, this is stuff I never had to deal with. So
you had to deal with some other stuff though, right? You had to have over a 10-year period. Like, what was some of the land management stuff? I'm really interested in this because this is the fear for me all the time that we're going to have, somebody showing up, shutting the race down the morning of the event or whatever. This is like the fear in the community for the race directors.
Right.
So what did that look like for you?
Well, the Grand Canyon, like that's always an issue because, that was always a very big concern of mine because, the Grand Canyon National Park is maybe the most visited national park in the country, and they have enormous management problems and issues, which I completely relate with and understand. And to be honest, the fact that they still allow people to carry their bikes across the corridor trails, extremely busy trails, dangerous trails, that's incredible. And the fact that they still tolerate the Arizona Trail, because they know about it. They knew about it after a few years, I think, and they knew about the tracker and all that. I feel very, very lucky that is still a thing. But it's kind of amazing that they haven't shut that down. Mm-hmm. And there have been small threats of it and rumors of, and there was an issue where they closed the North Rim Road to bikes until May 15th. And that's the main reason that the race is now in the fall, is that it became basically impossible to do it legally in the spring anymore, because they were saying, and I don't know what the reasons were, and maybe someone was trying to put the kibosh on the race a little bit, but I think it's probably bigger than that. But that made it so, because there's often snow on the North Rim in the spring. And so a lot of times I allowed people to take the highway there. Sometimes there's 8 feet of snow up there. So that's always been a concern. But I did get messages from people in Pima County who they learned about the race and just absolutely freaked out. There's a bike race on our trails, on our, what is this? Fortunately, I knew people in the county that were able to calm them down, I think, a little bit. But there haven't been too many direct things like that. The time I got threatened by the sheriff was an AES event, actually, not the Arizona Trail. Well, it was an AES event on the Arizona Trail,
right?
But the Antelope Peak Challenge.
Oh, okay.
I put that one on for a number of years, and there were some rescues. Oh, actually, this is the Gila 100, the one-day Gila 100 event. Mm-hmm. That's when there was 2 rescues, and the sheriff was absolutely pissed, and he was threatening to give me a ticket, and he said I needed a permit and all this stuff. And fortunately, I think once he drove out into the desert and was out there for for a few hours, he had to go pick one of the riders up who had called. He'd called 9. Well, his dad had called 911 as hey, my son is out there and might be in trouble. And it's you don't call emergency services and say there might be an issue. It's there's either an issue or there isn't.
Right.
So fortunately, to the rider's credit, he realized that once, the emergency services have been called, you don't just keep riding. You sit where you are and you let them come get to you because they've been activated, at this point. So, but the sheriff went out and drove and actually picked this rider up. Unfortunately, by the time he came back, he had cooled down quite a bit. But yeah, it's an issue. There's, but historically, AES has been going on almost as long as the Arizona Trail Race and bikepacking events, and the number of issues has been pretty small. And it's a beautiful thing. It's an amazing thing that we can still do those cool underground events,
Yeah. I feel like at least the canyon thing is so finite. Like it's so, like I feel like every year, because I haven't done it yet.
And you need to.
Yeah, well,
because it might not, I know, it can go away.
I know, and last year was the year, and then the North Kaibab fires, and I just opted that I wanted, if I was going to take all the time off of work and do everything, I wanted to do the full original, route through the canyon. The portage is special to me, the full portage, and I wanted to experience all the glory, all the glory of it, because I did rim to rim to rim on foot, and that was sort of my gateway into like, okay, what is this going to be like? And it was Vision Quest, and
it is. Yeah,
I can't wait.
Yeah,
and oh man, I was seeing so my wife and I did it on foot, and we were coming back. So we were coming back up South Kaibab after being out there for 14 hours or something, and it was timed, sort of on purpose, sort of not on purpose. So we would see some of the Arizona Trail bikepacking race through hikers coming down that night, and we could cheer them on, Cool. And it was so great. And dude, I was FOMOing out so hard. I was like, I want to put my bike on my back. I want to do it so bad. And then the North Kaibab fires happened, and that was that. So this year it's on, assuming that it's going to open.
Right.
Assuming that they're at least going to open, speculating that it's going to open at least for through hikers. But they may or may not have water, access to water, like, on the North Rim at the historic, buildings up there that had the spigots and stuff. Who knows if that'll be all working and activated, which is going to change the dynamics of the whole carry out of the canyon.
Yeah, that's tough if there's no water.
Yeah, sure. Dude, if you got to carry 4 liters also from the box from the last natural water source, which is the river down there.
Right. Yeah. Wall Creek, maybe. Yeah. There's a creek that is usually pretty deep in the spring that you cross. I remember because they were telling us we couldn't do it the first year when I think they were trying to talk us out of crossing the canyon overall. I mean, I think that's kind of their job sometimes in the Park Service.
Yeah.
But they were telling us that it was like going to be like waist deep and stuff. And it was knee deep, I think, but there was an incredible amount of snow that year in 2005. But I believe it usually runs, but anyway, it's still a huge carry from there, to get up into get some snow melt or something. I don't know. Jacob Lake. I mean,
right. Where's the next tank after, if there's no water at the North Rim? Mm-hmm. Where's the next tank? I haven't even really looked at the possibility of that. I've been avoiding it. Yeah. Because I don't want to think about how long that carry would be. Potentially.
Oof, yeah, that could be brutal.
So it might change the dynamic of the race. We'll see. But I'm assuming that's going to happen, and then I'll get to enjoy that.
But yeah, I would say do it as soon as you can, because it is a tenuous thing, for sure. I mean, chances are it'll keep going for a number of years, but there's no guarantees. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say the AZT race is one of the most tenuous out there. Tour Divide is kind of up there as well, but yeah, get it while you can.
Yeah, for sure. How much has Trackleaders exposed cheating in racing?
It's a good question. I mean, it prevents cheating probably more than it exposes it, I would say.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cheating that I think would have happened if not for public tracking data. But yeah, we have been involved in a few actual cheating cases, where the tracking data was suspicious, and in some cases for the win on a race. And we had to confront the people, or the race director did, usually not us. We usually just provide the expert witness testimony, I guess. But
right.
Yeah, so it's pretty irrefutable is the great thing about it, right? I mean, it comes through our website, and we're a neutral third party, but there have been cases where people have tried to basically argue against the data. It's like, well, yeah, there's a very, very low likelihood that the data is not that you weren't where the website says you were at this particular time, and that it was impossible for you to cover this ground in this amount of time.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. There's been cases where people then provided doctored Garmin files,
right,
and sometimes poorly doctored Garmin files that actually proved that they did cheat, even though they thought that they were doctoring it to make it look like they completed the course. But
so they'll go in and add dots or adjust the dots and the timestamps.
In one case, yeah.
Whoa.
I think in one case, this guy he pulled. He like moved the points back onto course because he missed a turn and he didn't go back to the route where he was supposed to.
Oh, okay.
And then won the race. Well, won the race. He got back to the start or to the finish first. And so all he did is he pulled his points up, but he didn't change the timestamps. So there was like crazy speeds and stuff in there. I was like, this actually proves that you did not do the course. Like you just completely damned yourself.
Right.
Yeah. But that's rare. That hasn't happened very much that I've been aware of. But
I just think there's a lot more of this sort of thing happening. I've always thought that. It's not just because I'm like, I can't compete with the best. That's not why I think this. I just think you get enough egos, even if there's no money in the sport.
Yeah.
And then there is some money in the sport in some instances, that where there is sponsorship deals on the line for some folks. And, that definitely, I think, could compromise some people's integrity.
Yep.
And I think cheating, it's unregulated, right? There's really it's not like there's a regulatory body that is watching, centralized regulatory body that's watching bike pack racing, right?
No, it's all community.
It's like whatever this race director wants to do, and the community self-policing, I guess, sort of thing.
Yep.
But I think it's happening in whatever way people can get an edge, they're getting an edge.
Absolutely.
I've actually witnessed it myself in a few cases, like little things.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that when the little thing happens, it's going to evolve into a big thing.
Yeah, and then it's what are you not seeing? Yeah,
exactly.
No, I think it's a part of human nature. When people, it's just competition. Even if there's nothing on the line but your own, bragging rights in your own head, that's enough of a reason to cut corners. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some people.
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't really had that. We haven't had to make any of those decisions that I know of in Pinions and Pines. That it's all been pretty good as far as I know. It's usually the big races, the big three. Yeah. That you see with the most publicity, that you see some of the funny business going on. But it happens in most sports, so why wouldn't it happen here,
Right.
Did you watch the Doom documentary that just recently came out?
I have not, no.
So Doom is they're like a paid permitted event, as far as I can tell. It's a paid event.
Yeah, we're tracking it this year.
I saw that. Yeah, it was Follow My Challenge last year, and it's on Trackleaders this year.
Come back, yep.
Yeah. So that's Andrew Onerma, his race, and it's interesting because it's sort of like bridging the gap between super underground bikepacking race and more of a mainstream event.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sort of fascinated by this. One, because we thought about that for Pinions and Pines, and Dana and I really, and I've talked about this a few times on the podcast, so sorry guys, but Dana and I have we thought about why are we doing this, and what do we really want from this, and why are we creating this experience, and what's going to be taken away when we increase the number of participants potentially to 300 people, 200 people, from a time perspective, right? Like we both work full-time jobs, but also from a foundational principles of bikepacking and what it means to us point of view, right? And how that naturally changes once you sort of commercialize something a little more, for better and worse.
Yeah.
Right. You're pretty much a neutral party in this because the tracking part doesn't really matter. But personally, what do you think about races that are becoming more highly marketed, they're permitted, they're becoming more legitimate events, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Sanctioned events.
Right. I'm all for it. I mean, I think, myself and some others helped set up this framework of self-supported bikepacking and stuff. And I think it's a great framework. It's a beautiful thing that is the simplicity, I think, is one of the best, features of that. And in my own personal life, I've just always tried to keep things simple, like you can see in my lifestyle, the mobile and all the stuff that I've always had that ideal, I guess. But I don't think that that's it. I've never felt that that's the only way to do things, and I've always thought that, there's eventually going to be bikepacking races like you just described that are official, that, interface with land managers and have entry fees and all this stuff and get more attention. And there's been people who've wanted this from the beginning. I think some people think that it's like a new idea, but I would say that undercurrent has always been there. Like a lot of people don't know this, but the very first Great Divide race had sponsors, had prizes. There were preems. Like first person to Rollins, I think it was like every quarter of the way down the country, the first person to Lima, Montana, got like this prize package of like tires or something for a year, or and there were and Mike Kiriak and Matthew Lee, they were sponsored riders. They had bikes and I don't know, 5 or 6, 7 sponsors at the time. So there's always been people who've wanted to make a living off of bikepacking and racing, and great, more power to them. I think that's a thing that is still allowed and encouraged in the self-supported, genre as well. But there's nothing to say that you can't have events that run differently. I guess where I bristle a little bit is when people want to change the existing events to meet their own, like what they want to see. It's like, well, if the current races don't offer what you're looking for, start your own race, or find someone to start the race that you want, rather than trying. Not that there isn't, I think the self-supported Triple Crown events they're open to evolution and change as well. But I think there's some core principles in there that, and it's not even people like me. It doesn't matter what I think. It's like the riders who are doing them, they don't want them to change. That's like kind of what those races mean and what they are. But there's people who want to see a legit divide race with like permits and everything.
Good luck.
I know.
With that. Have you thought about the logistics?
That? Yeah. You have to interface with like 50 different land managers. Yeah. BLM, forest, state. I mean, across the entire country, different countries. Yeah.
Impossible.
Canada.
This is impossible.
Yeah. I don't think it's impossible, but it's certainly a full-time job.
In a year?
Yeah. You would spend the whole year doing it. Yeah.
Dude, there's people that spend a whole year just doing that for Cocodona. And it does 3 land management groups.
Right.
I just don't see how that, just the way that I work for the government. Okay. I don't see how that, I don't understand how that's even possible with that big of an event. And that's probably why it's self-limiting.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
but
if somebody threw enough money at it, they could do it though.
Okay.
You could get a committee, it would have to have like outside funding though, or the entry fee would be $5,000. So I don't know. But.
Well, I mean, you get a fair. There's a lot of people, and so there's like hundreds of people that start Tour Divide, right?
Usually about 200.
Yeah,
it's kind of plateaued. I mean, back in the early days, people used to always say to us like, "Oh, it's just bikepacking, just colossal growth, and there's going to be what are you going to do when there's 2,000 people showing up for Tour Divide?" Hasn't happened. It's just you have to have. It's really hard. I mean, and B, who has you have to take a huge amount of time off of work and family and all these things. Like you can't just. And financial also, it's a pretty costly race to run. So I think it is very self-limiting, and it's kind of amazing that it has just kind of nicely plateaued around 200.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Pinions and Pines is plateaued around 70, whatever. Like the magic U.S. Forest Service number.
That's nice.
It literally somehow, no matter what the wait list is, it always comes back around to that number. And it's like somebody at some point in time did some studies in the government on what's the magic number and why is the number 74? Like, why did they choose that number?
Yeah, it would be interesting to know the history of that.
Yeah.
But it is kind of it is interesting how a lot of these events are fairly self-limiting in that way. The AZT is similar as well, where for a while there it was button up with 74, and I was having to turn some people away. And then John made it much harder and kept adding things, and more trail was built, and added the whole. I mean, he went to the 800 instead of the 750. That like every year it just kept getting harder, which was I encouraged because I think one of the best ways to keep these events going and is to make them difficult, but now he's kind of like even like 60 or so. I think his limit is in the 60s, and it just barely, I don't think he really has to turn anyone away, which is cool. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't like the idea that like if there was like 2,000 people wanting to do it, and it's like hard rock, where like you have to think about lottery systems and all that kind of stuff. Like I love that bikepacking is still a very much open to all and everyone's welcome kind of a thing, and you don't have to exclude people in that way.
Yeah, so. I don't think it's ever going to happen. It's too much logistics and stuff and time and money, and for those length of events. What I'm saying is these like Sour, they're having these two distances. So basically your classic, weekend 3 to 4 day ultra distance, and then there's the shorter version, which is like maybe this one is 100 miles and change. So on a gravel bike, you're talking a day.
Yeah.
Right.
That's way more accessible for people. And gravel's more accessible as well.
Right. And so that's kind of filling that void of the people that don't have the time or money or grit to fully commit to the big thing. Mm-hmm. But it's also a supply and demand thing, because you still are bound by the same total number of people for that event. And so if you get, the shorter you make the distance, the more people are going to probably register for that.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. This is the second year or third year of it?
Second.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if they butt up against that limit pretty quickly, especially with that shorter one.
Right. Then they're going to have to make
great
a choice.
to them. I mean, I've always thought, why aren't there more events in the Tucson area? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many great roads and trails and stuff so much great terrain down here, that like the fact that there's only the AZT race has kind of been a shame for a while. So,
yeah.
So good on them for making something happen.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in this area. Basically, if you take the big map of Sour, I grew up dead in the middle of it, in the center of it, down in Green Valley, and exploring the Box Canyon and that side of the Santa Ritas and all that. And so it's going to be fun to rip some gravel, and also be like 3 a.m. near the border in the middle of the night. I've been watching the show The Strain. Did you ever see that show on FX?
No.
Oh, dude. I've been rewatching it. So it's a book by Guillermo del Toro. He's like now the established director. Yep. He adapted the book to this series, and it's basically like a vampire story, but it's a parasite that moves from person to person. Like a worm, basically.
Okay.
And I've just been binging that for the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. Not on purpose. I just got hooked on it. So I'm sure I'm going to see some little vampire demon things often when I'm sleep deprived behind a cactus.
It's always fun.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Oh man. Especially if it goes into the second night at all. But you said you're trying to finish.
Oh God, I hope so.
Before in
35 hours.
35. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, which would be first day through the night, all the second day. Hopefully, we'll see. I mean, this podcast will come out afterwards, so we'll see how that goes. But I'll surprise everyone. Back to the Doom documentary a little bit. One other thing I wanted to say about that. There was an interesting thing that happened, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. Sorry if I'm spoiling it for you, but I think this is important to talk about. There's a girl at the end that makes it all the way almost to the finish. She's literally walking distance from the finish line, and she's so destroyed and sleep deprived that she ends up crashing and KOing herself, knocking herself out right at the end.
Yikes.
Yeah, big time yikes. And they they get her, they go, because she's so close to the finish, they go make sure she's like, knows her name, knows who the president is. She was completely out of it, like very confused, didn't know she was doing a bike race, like really bad seemingly situation on the surface. And they got her back. They had her like walk into the finish, so she technically finished the race. And man, it just got me thinking like about all this stuff. It's so dangerous, you know? It's a dangerous activity, but there's a big difference between sanctioning an event and not sanctioning an event. I think I would have to talk to a lawyer on this, but, or AI, I guess. But, cause you know, we've put people on stuff on Pinions where we're like, Dana's like, oh my God, I hope everybody's okay. And it's like, you chose this, buddy.
Yeah, I think it's different personalities and different race directors, how responsible you feel. I mean, I tried to tell myself that like, yeah, this is not really an event. There's no actual structure. Half the time I was out there racing myself too. And it's like, how are you?
I'm not going to help anybody.
Yeah. I mean, like the cavalry is not coming.
Right.
People have spots and stuff and that helps. But yeah, it's definitely one of the reasons I don't personally put on events anymore. But also I think, you know, life is dangerous. Stuff happens, you know, and like, you know, bike races are, not that much more dangerous than regular life, driving down I-10 or whatever.
Probably.
Yeah.
Definitely better than riding your bike on a road bike.
Yep.
Or out on the road, probably in high traffic area.
Mm-hmm. But that story from Doom, that reminds me of, I mean, brings me over to like sleep, the whole idea about sleep deprivation. And that is kind of an area that is a little questionable, I think. I mean, my own experience, I thought it was really cool, like a very unique, cool experience to have, like not sleeping 2 nights in a row, like what happens to your brain and your motivations and everything when you've been awake for 50 hours, that kind of thing. It's not something I want to do a lot of, and I don't think it's good for your brain, and it is kind of dangerous. So there's like this other, I don't know if you know about racing in like New Zealand, where they mandate a 6-hour stop every 24-hour period. So it's more brevet style of racing. And they kind of look down on our style where the clock just starts and you can sleep as much as you want or as little as you want. And I think there's a decent argument that that's actually, you know, certainly more sustainable as far as like you could do more races per year if you have to sleep 6 hours every night, and potentially safer as well. And I think some of the accidents that have happened in some races, particularly road, may have, you know, sleep deprivation may have been a contributing factor to when people have gotten hit. And yeah, that story in Doom reminds me of, there was a guy in CTR in one of the early years who really pushed sleep deprivation. And he wasn't really near the front, but kind of in the mid pack. And he got to Junction Creek. So he was a mile from the finish in Durango and just completely lost his mind. He didn't know who he was, what he was doing. Hikers ended up calling 911 for him because they're like, there's this confused person who doesn't know what he's like, who he is and what he's doing. And he DNF'd the race 1 mile from the finish. Like he had to be extracted, taken out of there.
Was this time and fish?
No.
Oh, that was different then.
Yeah.
Because I heard the similar thing about Timon. I think that's how you say his name, Timon.
I think so. I'm not
when he was trying to set the FKT. It was the same thing. He was really close to the finish, and he woke up in a ditch with the fire department there.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Being like, what are you doing, buddy? Mm-hmm. And he had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah.
And didn't know how he got there.
Right.
Dude, that's scary stuff. Like, and was this culture of sleep deprivation from the beginning?
Yes.
Like Kyriak and...
I think so, yeah. He certainly pushed it very hard when in all his racer efforts that I know of, yeah.
Because the problem is if you want to be competitive, and a lot of this is driven by competition, you have to not sleep. Mm-hmm. Unless the race is designed, like you say, in New Zealand, which I love that. And they really do. They're like stupid Americans.
Yeah.
Hurting their brains.
It's the standard. It is. It's the standard over there. I mean, most of the events are that way. Yeah.
That's awesome that they have that culture.
Yeah. I think it's something that should at least exist here as like an option, you know. And I thought about it for myself even a little bit, like, oh, what if the AZT? I thought about making the AZT 300 a stage race as well, but I was like, oh man, now it's going to take like 6 days. If you have to sleep 6 hours or more every night, it's like, oh, it's not a weekend thing anymore. But yeah,
there's a few popping up. The Gila is converted. The Gila 100 is now converted into a stage race, right?
Right. Yeah.
Officially.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And I considered it for Pinions this year, running like the week before, kind of like how the sideshow, the Stagecoach 400 does the sideshow, so that you could actually get more people in. Because if you run it a different weekend, I don't know what the rule exactly, the gray area and the rules there. I think it's one event, one gathering of people is where the cap is on the 74, so you could extend it to more people that way.
Yeah, I think it's per day is my interpretation of it. Yeah.
And but I don't know. But then it was, I don't know. Maybe if I was just doing race directing, I'd have a little more time to manage that. So, but yeah, it would be nice to have that. But that's just not what the culture is, man. It's just like grind yourself to the end, wake up in a ditch, or win in glory.
Yeah, and
like Spartan style.
It is, and it's there's something to that. I mean, I admire it. Absolutely.
Dude, it's fun.
Yeah, it is.
That's what it is. It's like, it's different, and it's you're I mean, what's the longest you've stayed awake for?
So probably my last successful bikepacking race was AZT 300 in 2012, and I did it in one push basically.
Yeah.
And it was about 52 hours or something like that. I took a couple naps. I mean, where it was like, you know, set the clock for either 5 or 10 minutes. I did a few of those, but it was like 10 minutes you lay down and then the alarm goes off, you know. And sometimes I was recharged amazingly, but yeah, my brain went to some interesting places on that second night, and even the next morning too. I was like doing the inner Gila Canyon sections with all the spires and stuff, you know, climbing away from the river to go finish at Picket Post.
Yep.
I was in there, and it was, the sun was up, and I initially got like a good boost of energy from that, but then like crashed again, and it was like had so many weird things going on in my brain where I knew what I was doing always, you know, like I knew I was moving forward, but that's about all I knew. Like, and I was seeing weird stuff. I was seeing people, and I was seeing faces, and it's very interesting. But yeah, that experience kind of, I felt like I had pushed it as far as I wanted to push it at that point. And I kind of lost interest in pushing myself to that level again or for longer because, or I just wussed out. I'm not tough enough to do it anymore. But yeah, it was amazing. I thought it was really cool, but not something that I needed to repeat, I guess.
Yeah, for me, it's almost addictive, like codependent thing where I'm like this relationship I have with sleep deprivation where whenever I do it and I'm done, I'm like, I'm never doing that again. And then I'm always going back to that abusive relationship, you know? So yeah, it's like an abusive codependent relationship with racing.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with certain levels of sleep deprivation, like especially one night. I feel like that's not really that detrimental to your
people do it all the time when they have kids, right?
Yeah, yeah. And even like, you know, like when people do Tour Divide and stuff, like Robin, who has a record now, I think he slept 4 or 5 hours every night, you know, which is still sleep deprivation, but it's not. Maybe there's a qualification in my head, at least, between sleep deprivation and extreme sleep deprivation when you're truly not sleeping or just taking tiny little cat naps, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a difference between, okay, you actually shut your brain off for more than an hour, a couple hours every night. Still very hard, a very hard thing to do. And that's seems more sustainable to me. But yeah. Once I saw that the things like CTR and AZT 300 at least had to go without sleep, at least for someone with like regular fitness abilities in order to do well or set a record, something like that. Yeah, that's when I started to, feel like I pushed it as far as I could and as far as I wanted to. And also when I kind of lost interest because I didn't want to push it like that, even further like that, I guess. Like CTR without sleep is scary to me.
Absolutely.
Like what Hefe does and stuff, and like when like Timon as well. Like, AZT 300, I think most people can do that because if you're relatively fast, you can at least finish, 2+ days, 2 to 3 days, something like that with no sleep. CTR is just so much, just that next level longer that you're going into the third night. And like, what do you like? That's when I get scared of it. So. But props to the people who have done it. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing of a fan, I'm glad it's not happening to my brain.
Yeah.
But I love seeing when people accomplish that kind of stuff. It's great. Yeah.
Sometimes it just doesn't compute, man. I'm like, how I don't even understand it, and they're just moving. They just keep moving.
They just keep going. Yep.
What has been over the years, what's been like the wildest event from a tracking perspective that you've had to track?
The most intense has been some of the motorsports races that we've done, like the Baja 1000.
Yeah.
Because it's there's like sleep deprivation to putting that event on and tracking it for us. Like that was the one event where there was one year when, because I think it went into like the second night when they do the full peninsula run on the 1000, and I fell asleep next to my phone and there was a problem with the tracking software. Like there was some bug or something.
Yeah.
And my phone was like ringing and vibrating like next to my bed. And I just slept through it because I was just so tanked from chasing bugs and issues and things that had arisen. This was in the early, like the first couple of years that we tracked those. But, and those guys are pretty intense. Like they don't sleep when they're like everybody that runs that event. It's like all weekend. They're just up all through the night. So
yeah. Don't they have like extra gas cans and tanks and stuff that they're like pouring into the engine, into the fuel tank as they're driving? Like they're just like no stop.
It is that level. It's almost like a Formula One pit crew kind of stuff. And they do have like, crews that follow along with spare parts to build a whole new truck or a whole new, vehicle because they're constantly fixing stuff. They're driving those things so hard. But yeah, it's definitely a very intense event.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole different mind, like those Motorhead type dudes too.
Yeah. But there's some similarities,
Yeah.
Like there's some people who race it on a motorcycle and do it in one push, and they're, like they're riding their moto at 70, 80 miles an hour for like 16 hours straight,
Yeah.
It's got some similarities to bikepacking, although again, it is kind of more intense because you're like, it'd be like riding a downhill bike for 16 hours.
Dude. Like the cortisol factor and the stress factor for that long.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's got to be a different sort of adrenaline. Like the consequences are even higher.
Yep.
For falling asleep and crashing.
Yep. I would say another wild thing is the mushing, like some of those longer mushing events, like we do Iditarod and the Yukon Quest, and those guys get into some sticky situations sometimes, and that's where we probably had the most rescues or like 911 messages come in. A lot of times it's the weather, but sometimes the dogs just sit up. Like they get out into a storm somewhere, and the dogs just decide they're not going to go anymore. And they have like I think some rudimentary camping straw and things that they can like camp if they need to and rest their dogs when they need to, and that's a whole part of that sport is resting the dogs and keeping care of them, of course. But sometimes they just refuse to go, and then you're stuck in some and like people have been rescued off the sea ice and off the sound and stuff where their dogs just sat up. It's
Whoa.
Like it's pretty out there.
And this is called mushing?
Dog sled
I've never heard
mushing.
this term.
Mushing, yeah. You ride on a sled, right? And you have a team of dogs 10, 12, it varies depending on the race. And the dogs just pull you down a beat-in trail. It's usually been made by snowmobiles and traveled by other dog teams and stuff.
Okay.
And so Iditarod is the most famous mushing event because there's like a whole historical story to it where they were delivering a serum to Nome, the town of Nome, that they needed. I don't know the details exactly, but there was some historic. It's like the run to marathon, that created the marathon. It's like that kind of level of like this serum had to make it to this town to save these people, and this dog team did this incredible 1,000-mile run from Anchorage to Nome in some crazy amount of time to save these people. And so now there's a race that where you try
honors it.
Yeah, it honors it. That they try to race as fast as possible, 1,000 miles through the Alaskan wilderness. And there's a bike version, of course, too. The Iditarod what's it called? Invitational. Yep, Iditarod Trail Invitational, which we've tracked for quite a long time. And I actually got to ride the first 350. There was a 350-mile version of that race and then a 1,000-mile version. And I rode my bike on the 350 to McGrath, which was an amazing experience as well. But yeah, that's a very intense event, or can be.
Yeah,
because weather's huge.
Yeah, and
snow and
gear.
Oh yeah.
Also, like it's a whole different set of gear, right? Cold weather gear.
Yeah, and
sweat management.
Yep. And in fact, actually, if you trace the roots of our bikepacking races, they actually are heavily influenced by old races on the Iditarod Trail, bike races. They were somewhat like legitimate as far as they had entry fees and were a little bit organized, but still kind of like there's just a couple of checkpoints. There's no signage. There's no they're still self-supported in a lot of ways. And just to do something like that, you have to be very self-supported. And so Mike and a few other people in his generation, that was kind of the genesis of the dirt events that actually came a lot from the Iditarod and the history of racing on the Iditarod Trail. So, yeah. So it's cool that event still happens and we get to track it. It's a fun one to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still going on right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude. What do you think's the biggest change you've seen in bikepacking since you started? Like if you had to put one thing.
Biggest change. Man.
It's a pretty big question.
Yeah. To me, it's more of like a slow evolution, It's like incremental things that slowly change so slowly that it's hard to see like a big I mean, with my own personal reasons, just tracking is a pretty big thing. Where I actually I got into bikepack racing before it existed, and like I was saying before, I had reservations about it as well. I mean, I did my first bikepacking races, I didn't even have a cell phone. I had no way to, and in fact, cell phones were banned kind of banned in the early Great Divide race. Like Mike didn't want people
emotional support to your cell phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's funny because he would call his coach on a payphone in town.
Oh, come on.
That was legal.
That's a little hypocritical.
Yeah, when you're in town. But But
yeah. But and that kind of plays into the whole new media argument. There's an evolution. So the cell phone thing is a great example of that. Like, it was banned. You can't use it because it's emotional support. And then there's this new era of people trying to make their life. The only way to make a living on bikepacking is to put out media. And the only way to put out media is to have a crew. Like good media.
Yeah.
Like
some of the self-produced stuff is quite good, but yeah.
Consistent production level.
Yeah.
Stuff that people want to watch.
I mean, even like you do here, like, you've got all this great equipment and stuff, which makes much higher production values.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Greg Dunham is working on the Stagecoach 400 documentary, right? And that was a big project that cost a lot, tens of thousands of dollars that he had to front to be able to make that thing come to life. Because you got drones and follow bikes, and to make like a film that tells a story. If you want to make that as an individual, it you have to do that. You can't have both, and it's this constant conflict.
Yeah.
With self-supported bike pack racing and the media piece of it. You know?
Yeah. And I think that's fine as long as, you know, the race director and the people and the racers, maybe even more importantly than the race director, are on board with that. And there's plenty of events out there now where media crews are a part of the deal, you know, and great. I mean, that's cool. But yeah, as I was saying before, like, but don't try to change the existing events because, you know, the people don't want to see that change happen to where they want, where it's fine if, I think most people are okay with what you just described with Greg, like when it's sanctioned by the race and it's more neutral and it's covering the race, right? As opposed to very focused only on one rider.
Right.
That's different. That's where the difference is. Yeah.
Right. It was announced at the pre-race meeting. Like, if you don't want to be on camera, let us know now, because we're going to neutrally cover this whole thing and film it.
And historically, that's been with bikepacking since the beginning too. I mean, you've probably seen Ride the Divide, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was the first thing that inspired me to get into the whole sport was media, right? So I'm partial to it. Like, I wouldn't have been exposed to it without the media.
Absolutely, yeah.
The possibility of it. And that's the story that everyone wants to hear is, I'm creating content that's inspiring other people to go do this too and have their own experience. Mm-hmm. But then that conflicts with,
it's a balance, I think.
A lot of the core ideals that sometimes need to, evolve a little bit. I mean, one solution is to create different classifications, supported and unsupported. But I think that might rub some people the wrong way.
Yeah, I think the better solution is just more events that, you know, adopt that from the get-go, or part of the ethos. Yep. And I hope that happens. I mean, that's already the European style, is, you know, content is in some of them is encouraged, you know, it's part of the deal, and that's great. I think I'd love to see events like that happen here too. More events.
It's not going to happen with Pinions. We're just, we're both like very anti-commercial in that way. Like, we don't want it to become a commercialized capitalistic event. Even though I'm a fan of capitalism, I want it to live in this like lore of like underground. I love that concept of underground. You don't know what you're gonna get. There's a limited amount of information, enough that you're not gonna die out there, but like not too much to make it too easy. Keep pushing the boundaries of making it difficult, add in variables, and just keep it like that. But we also don't want to work. We also aren't attempting to make it a full-time gig. So, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. You want to take a quick little break?
Sure.
All right. I gotta use the restroom. We'll be right back, folks. Did you do any of the AES stuff?
I just did the Tortolita 50, yeah.
Okay.
And actually, I was the race director for that. I got roped into it.
Oh, for this year?
Yeah.
You were in charge of it?
Yeah, just because my good friend Chad Brown, he was busy. He's got 2 kids now and stuff. He's the creator of the AES series.
Really?
Yeah. He's the one that got it started. And he still runs a few of the Tucson ones, but people like Schilling and Garrett and other Phoenix people have taken over a lot of and created a lot of the new events. But Chad's actually the person who started it all, and he's still involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull that a little closer. Yeah, dude. Arizona Endurance Series definitely was a gateway drug for me.
It's a cool thing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the first pass of ultra stuff. Like, I self-destructed so many times in the early years on AES races.
Sweet. I love it.
Yeah. And then learned a lot, and then realized, like, okay, now I can keep doing this. You would scale up on the Arizona Endurance Series. So I started with, the Pleasantville, I think, was my first one. It was the first year it got put on. And then it was, I think I can go a little further. And then it was Pick a Post. And then it was the Pick a Post maximum punishment pulverizer.
Oh man, the 100, yeah.
Dude. And then it was the Gila 100 when it was that straight through edition.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And that was a Vision Quest also. and then the Coco 250.
Yeah, that's that when I think the first time you probably used Trackleaders was Coconino, right?
You got it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was my first year. El Frico, Jeff Himperly was out there trying to set the FKT. We all meet at there's a place called Mike and Rhonda's.
The place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In Flagstaff, and that's where the race officially like starts.
Yep.
And I walked in, dude, gonna be navigating off my cell phone. I had no idea what was happening. Hot mess. Frico sitting there in his, Lycra outfit, branded with El Frico. And he's very intimidating. He's less intimidating now, but he was a very intimidating character back then.
He can be intense, yeah.
Yeah.
Great guy, but definitely intense at times, and very competitive.
Very competitive. Yeah. And I think was more competitive back then. And dude, I did not know what I was getting myself into.
So did you do a stage race or did you do a through push ITT?
First time I did the stage race.
Okay, yeah, smart.
Yeah. And that was crazy to think I could ride,
Still very hard, yeah.
Yeah, far. And then I went back and like a couple years later, I thought I could go faster. I could make it all the way to Mingus on the first night. That was the idea. And I still want to go back one of these days and give it a go with my current fitness level. I think I could do it even faster, but I don't know. There's all this new stuff on Mingus, Copper Chief.
Yep.
And some really, really good single track.
Yeah, it needs an addition, I think. Shilling was telling me about that. I think that stuff needs to be added because the current way of Mingus is just a beast.
Yeah, the back trail with the switchbacks that goes up to the hang glider pad.
Yep. There's one place where you have to like push your bike up this huge step and there's no way around. And I remember there was like a woman or two who have told me over the years, like, they weren't sure they could actually do it. Like it was too high and too far up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, that's actually, I mean, if they did it, they did it, of course, but that trail's not.
Yeah. Copper Chief is way nicer. We're putting Copper Chief on pinions this year.
Oh, cool.
And just because it's like, I guess they're building an entire. There's a thing coming out called the Verde Valley Circle Trail, I think is what they're calling it. So they're developing this huge, few 100-mile route in that area, which is sort of an untouched gem. Sedona gets so much love, for being Sedona and a premier mountain bike destination for the world. And, but it's so busy, dude.
Yeah.
And it's just like too much.
Yeah. It's kind of a small place when it really comes down to it, as far as like, it's like you hit all the busy areas. When you do a big loop, it's like busy area after busy area.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing how much new trail development is happening in that area. It's really cool to see. So
yeah. Mingus is like a place that lives in lore for me. And I think that's from the Coco 250.
Yeah.
Because, pushing up that trail, dehydrated.
Yeah. Did you go to Hog Wild before you went up there?
I don't know. What's Hog Wild?
That's the barbecue place. I don't know if it's still open.
Oh, yeah.
That used to be the move, is you'd like hit the Hog Wild and then you'd have this huge stomach full of barbecue.
Yeah.
And it's like 100 degrees and you're going up that first road and there's just like the sun's baking you, and more than a few, Hog Wild dinners have like ended up in the bushes during that race.
Dude. Yeah. I don't think I think I ate it like that retro diner sort of place that's on the corner there, and had a giant burger, a couple giant burgers, and then pushed up Mingus.
Yeah.
I did run up I did run out of water one year going up that.
Yeah.
And I got super dehydrated, like what I thought was dangerously dehydrated at that time. And I got to the top and there were some people camped out, or they were in trucks. There was like some kids in trucks and some adults. And I finally got to like the launch pad, and I'm really in a bad way. Just a pounding headache. I feel like I'm probably gonna have to bail if I don't get water. So I just asked them if I could buy some water off of them. And I don't think I was doing I might have been doing the event,
the stage race,
the group thing. Yeah.
Yep.
But I was like ready to bail. So I was like, dude, I'm whatever. Self-supported went out the window for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. I just needed some freaking water.
Yeah.
And, cause I just made a really bad tactical decision on the way up. I just did not carry enough. And yeah. And I'm like, can I buy some water off you guys? And they're like, get in the back. I'm like, okay, I don't really care where we're going. I'm going with you. So I jump in the truck. No, they're like, follow me. I don't get in the truck. They're like, follow me. I got some water at my camp. So I follow them back and I end up at that giant compound that's up there. There's like a giant Baptist summer camp.
Oh yeah.
It's up at the top of Mingus.
Yeah.
It's where Cocodona has one of their aid stations now.
Mm-hmm.
And I end up there and they're like, come in, we'll get you some water inside. I'm like, all right, fine. So I go inside and they're having like a full turkey dinner. It's around Thanksgiving. I think the event's usually around that time of year. And they're doing like a full Thanksgiving dinner and they're like, have some food. And I was so like delirious. I thought that, I don't know. I didn't know what was going on, man. Like I was just like, and I sat next to a lady who didn't speak any English. She just spoke Spanish. So she was just talking to me in Spanish. And I was like eating this Thanksgiving dinner.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
Yep. This is the experiences why you put events on like this. Is that this is exactly the experience you want people to have. Yeah. I mean, you got to learn how to do this stuff. And like, it's so hard that like very few people just like drop in and like, you know, do one of these bikepacking or even AAS to start and like just nail it, you know? And
yeah.
Like it's a process for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely have better planning now. I don't, you know, I feel like that was way borderline not okay as far as accepting support, as far as the race thing is concerned. But I wasn't even.
Yeah.
I was just trying to survive on my bike in that moment, you know?
Yep.
There was no. It was just an interesting adventure.
No, I enjoy seeing that process where people like you were just saying, AES kind of is a feeder for like bikepacking races and the AZT race and stuff. And like, I always think of John Chilling, like he started showing up to AES events back in the day, and not to brag on John too much, but he'll like this, but he had so many mechanicals and so many issues in those early days. Like there was like this running joke that whoever won the race, like John's time would be like 2 or 3 times whatever the winning time was, but he always finished too. Like that was the awesome thing. But he would be like I had this impression of John when he first started showing up. I was like, he must be like brand new to mountain biking because his bike's always falling apart. He's always having some issue when he's out there. I find out later that he's been riding as long as I have. Like he's been riding since he's a teenager, you know. Yeah. Very experienced mountain biker, but hadn't done these long events. And so he got into AES and he started doing longer and longer and figuring it all out and then like the next thing was to do the AZT 300 and then the AZT 750 and all the Tour Divide, Triple Crown and everything. And then now he's a race director. And so, yeah, I love seeing like a progression like that.
Yeah.
In other people. Yep.
Well, and it's not just a progression in that event. You're changing who you are.
Yeah.
And you're changing how you're dealing with problems in regular life and how you're interfacing with people and how you're approaching victim mentality or not victim mentality.
Yeah, I think there's something great to be learned from self-supported, like the idea that you can ride yourself across the state of Arizona or across the country or 300 miles, whatever, you know, and do it just by yourself. Like that's something that if everyone was like encouraged to do somehow, could change a lot, you know, in the world.
There's no way to bottle that up and get it to someone through Trackleaders though. Yeah. That's the one thing we found, right? No. Even though the dot watching is just as a dot watcher, you know, and a racer, it's just not. You just aren't going to be able to give that experience to people. No. Like they have no idea what it's like, dude. Sometimes deep into these things, like
you have to do it yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's gonna. I don't even think if you had really good media coverage, like let's say you had drone, like Cocodona, they have like drones and like follow cams, and they have all the great media live. Mm-hmm. It still doesn't really bottle up the experience for most people, you know.
No, it doesn't. Yeah,
like you can't. You just got to experience it yourself, and it'll forever be like that. And I think that'll keep it special, because if everybody could, it would lose what makes it so special, I think.
Yeah.
I have to ask everybody this. I usually get a pulse check on how AI is affecting. I think it's maybe more pertinent to you than most people. Has it had an impact on your workflow or the future of what you think track leaders will be?
I think it will, but I haven't, not yet. No. And I'm behind the times in this respect, I would say. Like I don't currently use it for anything.
But on purpose, or are you just not interested? Like, or are you like planting your flag?
No, I'm not like staunchly against it or anything at all. And I'm not afraid of it, certainly. But, no, I just have my ways of doing things, and I like to, I guess this comes back to the kind of self-reliant, self-supported thing as well. It's like, I like the fact that my code, like when something's wrong with my code and there's some stupid bug or whatever, all I can blame is myself. It's like my fault. There's nobody else. That's one of the beauties of, not collaborating with other programmers as well, but also not injecting a bunch of like AI written code. It's like, I know how it works in theory. I can remember how it works maybe, but I can only blame myself. And it feels like a more self-contained system. But yeah, I do feel like I will fall behind if I continue to, go with that mentality.
Yeah.
But right now I have a system that works really well, and scales up to big events and everything. And so, yeah, but I do have some ideas where I do want to incorporate AI, like AI like features maybe to trackers.
Right.
So I'm more interested in that than like programming hacks and things to like speed up my own workflow.
Vibe coding.
Yeah, that kind of stuff I'm not as interested in. But like an AI summary of what's happening in an event or something like that, if I could have that on into track leaders, that kind of thing I'm very interested in.
Right.
But that would be almost me more writing that, or using some tools for sure, but it's a very specific application of it.
Right. So if it could kind of like draw the names and provide a live update, like a live recap of the last 24 hours of the moving dots.
Yeah, or like on everyone's individual page, it could say, give a summary of what happened in their race.
Dude, that would be cool.
Yeah.
It could also maybe aggregate like places that are slower or faster. It could, it could track the time on the dots. So like on average, it took this many hours for people to go up the limb and push.
Yeah, compared to other riders, and
right.
Yeah,
it could
that kind of
aggregate statistics a little bit better and on demand sort of.
Yep.
That'd be a really interesting application.
Yeah, I think it could make the races more compelling to follow, than they are right now.
Yeah.
Than just live locations and history, basically.
Right. It could give
it's like analysis kind of. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot that can be done there.
I mean, if you could have on-demand analysis for whatever and that's the key of the AI is curating a response to an individual's question, right? Like a prompt that you could put in and say, describe what happened here.
Using an aggregate of a lot of data, which we do have a lot of data,
right?
Yeah, even as a race is going on. Yeah, it's too much for a human to look at,
right.
and see the trends and see the things that are happening that you would miss otherwise.
Even just making it easier for, let's say, like my selfish example where I'm taking Andy Wenzel's time on Sour from last year, and I'm like benchmarking each stop that he took. I could just prompt that in potentially and say, give me a breakdown of the key stops and how long he spent at those stops.
Yeah. Describe his overall strategy.
Right. Right. Yeah. And then I'll just steal that from Andy. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah. Well, and thank you, track leaders, for putting the data out there. Like you actually could do that potentially now, where you could feed in a bunch of, data and say, like, describe this person's strategy. Oh, he rides 22 hours and then he sleeps on average 4 hours. And then he stops. He gets this, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot that could be done.
There's potential there for sure. Does it scare you at all? Are you nervous about AI?
Like AI in general?
No. Generative AI?
I mean, slightly, but no. I think, but I'm not really kind of person that is prone to doomsday kind of thinking, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, one could.
It's a potential. I mean, there's an issue, but I don't. Yeah. I'm not worried about it myself. I don't think it's going to go that way, but it's very hard to say though.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you were an early adopter of a new technology back at the GPS, revolution. And so I could see how you would have that perspective.
And I did do some work with AI with like computer vision and pattern recognition and that kind of stuff in my grad studies. And I do understand like pretty well the limitations of what, where it's very unlikely to match humans in certain areas, but, and then exceed them in so many other areas. But yeah, as far as it like taking over the world and shutting down the power grid and that kind of stuff. Yeah, Skynet. Yeah. I'm not, it's possible though.
It's kind of, so a lot of people feel like it's the ghost in the machine, right? Mm-hmm. I have this perspective where it's still just basic programming. It doesn't have what we like would consider a soul, right? And you being in with the background that you have, do you see it as this like objective, no matter how smart it gets, it's still being driven by programming?
Mm-hmm. For the time being, it is.
Until what? It's being driven by its own programming? It's programming itself?
Yeah, or when they start collaborating with each other, like AI agents start working together. That's when it gets a little unknown. Right. Yeah, because you can, certainly what's already happening is you have these agents who, they have a purpose, like you're giving them, and their purpose is to serve us right now or serve some goal. But when they start working together and they can change their purpose and modify what they're doing, that's when things can cascade potentially. And that's what people are worried about, I guess.
Right.
But, and yeah, hopefully people, safeguards and things will be put in on certain things like the power grid. But I'll be fine. I've got my rig and solar power out here.
Yeah, dude.
No, I won't be fine.
You got enough guns?
No, I have no guns.
Yeah. So I do think the one silver lining on this whole thing is, and I'm fully convinced of this, that the power demand will force the world into a better way to develop power. So nuclear fusion, basically. I'm fully convinced that we're going to see nuclear fusion in the next 10 to 15 years. It's so close to being realistic. So fusion, I went down a huge rabbit hole with this. Fusion and fission. Fission is the splitting of an atom. It's the nuclear bomb. It's what creates, it's like the thing that everybody's afraid of, right? Mm-hmm. And so most, like all power plants now, nuclear power plants are fission. And they split an atom and it generates heat, and that it heats up the water, and then that creates steam, and then that turns turbines, and then that creates power. And it does it for a long time, but it's, you can have meltdowns, and all of the stories we've heard about all of the things happening around the world over time that have horrific consequences, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas fusion is your smashing two atoms together so much that it basically creates a reaction by combining the two together. So it's basically what happens in the sun all the time. It's constantly like bringing these atoms together and creating heat from that, right? But it needs to be fed like a raw material, and it's really hard to keep it going once it's going. So it's inherently much safer.
Unstable. Oh, it's more stable.
It's way more stable, right? Because it's basically, if it doesn't continue to get deuterium and this other material, I forget what the other one is, but they're like naturally available in all over in the planet, hydrogen and deuterium or something like that. Anyway, the problem is they like suspend this process in plasma, and they use magnets, super ridiculously powerful magnets, to like suspend the plasma in the center of these reactors while this reaction is happening and generating heat. And they keep feeding it the raw material that'll consume, and then it'll create heat and do the same thing where it heats up the water, spins the turbines, creates electricity, right? But it's like way, 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 way safer. They just are at a point where they've created the reaction, but they can't, they don't have a net positive. So it takes more energy to create the reaction than it does to yield the energy out of it.
And so is this what, cold fusion? Because I remember cold fusion was the thing that, and there was a hoax about cold fusion. This was maybe in the 90s or maybe in the 80s.
Yeah.
Where somebody claimed they had done it, they had solved it, and it turned out they hadn't.
Yeah, I don't know about the hoax, but cold fusion is like Fallout, the series Fallout. And the video game, do you remember the video game Fallout?
I never played Fallout.
Oh man, that was one of those early video games back in the 90s. Yeah, cold fusion. I don't know what the cold part is.
Okay.
I think that's science fiction.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's the same idea. It's like the holy grail of energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're almost there. I mean, like Microsoft commissioned a plant to be built to do fusion, to run one of its data centers.
Yeah.
And I just think the demand for energy is going to be too high, and it's going to force the world into getting off of fossil fuels and developing a better energy system. I really do think that. I was like looking for stocks to buy last week, but they're all private companies. You can't buy any of this stuff.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing if we can get off of that. I mean, hopefully you're right, and that does drive it. Yeah.
But then we're all in the matrix, and we're all like just, we don't use our brains anymore to do anything. Mm-hmm. All we do is scroll and doom scroll
and ask AI agents to do stuff for us.
Yeah.
Run our lives. Yeah.
Which is wild, dude, because I'm in the middle of doing that all the time now at my work. I'm an early adopter of technology, and I'm like, this is awesome. I can do my own coding. I can do my own bounce ideas off of it. I hate writing. I can have it write for me.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's funny how it appeals to some people. And then there's people like me who, I don't know. I like writing. I like writing my own code. Like I like doing stuff on my own. But yeah, there's a good potential I'm going to get left behind if I don't start using some of these tools. Yeah.
But I'm a stick in the mud about other things.
Yeah, everybody, that's right. I mean, everybody's an adopter of some things and a curmudgeon in other ways.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like I'm a stick in the mud about creativity on the AI side. I mean, I think that it's just not, it kind of was like glossy and new, generative AI that would create videos and content and movies and it's like the minute I realized something was generative AI, I just completely lost all care about watching it. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, this is not created by another human, that this content is embedded with the emotions and the life experiences of this person.
Yeah.
And when you're watching something, and we don't realize that that's what we're watching it for, but you're watching it for that because they've created this thing and it's human to human. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And so the minute I was like, oh, this just was slop, which is, the term now, the AI slop. Mm-hmm. It was like, I'm not interested. I lost interest.
Yeah, I see it in the wildlife stuff where they have like fake, like fight between a badger and a bear or something.
Yeah.
As soon as I realize it's AI, I lose interest too, because it's like, well, it's something that could happen, but I only want something that actually did happen.
So why is that?
Yeah, right? I don't know.
What is the human
I don't know.
evolutionary trait that is causing us to care about something that, to lose interest on something that we're being tricked about?
Right.
It's not real.
And maybe we'll all get over it and like love the generated stuff eventually once it becomes so widespread. But yeah,
I was on a whole thing of getting fed in the algorithm. Fat people falling through floors.
Oh yeah, AI would be. I would be all over that. Yeah,
it was just fat people falling through ceilings.
Yeah, and same thing. Like funny videos. Like if it's fake, I'm not interested.
Yeah,
like if it didn't actually, even though it could happen, like it's not unrealistic, right?
Totally.
Yeah,
but I'm just super interested in why that made me lose interest, and if the young people, the generation below me that are in their 20s even care, or if I'm just in my own little old man world over here about not caring. But I really do think that like human to human creativity is something you're not going to be able to replace, and there's going to be a rejection of that stuff. It's just not going to pick up steam. There's going to be a whole subset of people that just want like authenticated human created materials, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You're going to ask for that. It's going to have like a badge that says this was created by a human.
Yeah, we need some generative bikepacking content.
Dude, I use it for some of my clips that I put out.
Oh yeah,
I'd use generative and I don't know. Some people talk shit about it. They were like, "This is killing me, dude." And I'm like, "Well, I know, but
no, I've seen it on some of your videos. Like, where like it just plugged in like a related kind of video kind of thing. And I think it's. I mean, It's a balance. Like, you can overdo it, of course, and it can be obnoxious, but
right.
in certain cases, I thought it's like, oh, it's actually pretty cool.
And I'm playing with it. And I think I found the limit of where it's distracting. I was generating a picture of Bigfoot, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, yeah.
And then I generated a picture of a bike, like a sideways shot of a bike frame, like they do, when they're selling you, on all the main websites of all the bike manufacturers, but it didn't have a seat, handlebars, or pedals on it, because that was what the content.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an interesting visual image to create, that was relevant to the particular clip. And that one blew up, dude. That clip blew up. Like, most of my clips don't get a lot of views, but that one just, because it was a semi-controversial take that Nick from Rogue Panda had about selling bikes without handlebars, seats, pedals, and handlebars.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's very passionate about, like, handlebar sweep and how important that is. And so it was a polarizing topic. I don't think he thought it was that polarizing, but it definitely was. The internet thought it was polarizing, because that thing went out of control and became its own life form.
Wow.
And I think part of the reason why was because I put an AI generated image at the beginning that was like, I just asked it, build me a mountain bike with a cool forest background that has no seat, no pedals, and no handlebars. And it was a weird image. You're not used to seeing that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's why people, but it looked realistic. But anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting what captures people's imagination.
Yeah. Well, trying to figure out what the hell is viral or not.
Oh yeah, there's
losing battle,
and then there's people spending millions on that. I'm
for sure.
Yeah.
The one thing I can tell is you have to create something polarizing, and you need to create, like, you can play off people's fear.
You have to, or this is just one of the ways you can do it?
I think this is a way to be successful. Yeah.
Okay.
If your goal is to get views, you have to create something. Like, the algorithm rewards controversy or polarizing topics.
Yeah.
That's pretty commonly known. And it rewards fear, because these are deep emotions that you're hijacking when people scroll.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like what happened is all the tricks from the old legacy news, the fear of new, like, breaking news, we have a shooter at blah, 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 like that kind of stuff, got together with all the tricks and tools from the casino companies.
Gamification and stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they created social media.
Yep. Yeah. I've fortunately have not had to think about that with Trackleaders at all. I feel very grateful for that, because, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just it's not my style, I guess. And fortunately, tracking on its own is, like, engaging enough, I guess. But I've certainly thought about adding, like, gamification or, like, I don't know, ways to not necessarily go viral, but hack into that, like, aspects of the brain that really just locks people in and whatnot. So, but yeah, fortunately I haven't had to go there.
Well, it's sort of there's our side-by-sides.
Yeah.
Oh, there's more. There's a whole gang. I forgot they come in pairs.
Yeah. Sorry about that. That might be it.
So the problem with me is I think I know the formula to create popular content, but it feels wrong for me to do that. And so I won't do it.
Yeah.
Like, it just happens every once in a while with the content I put out naturally.
Just, right. As a byproduct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But most of I've put out hundreds and hundreds of clips now, and, like, most of them, like, just kind of, there's this zone they stay in.
Mm-hmm.
But then every once in a while there's just and the only other video that I created that's done that is about using air tags on your bike. And basically the concept behind that video is if you use an air tag on your bike and your bike gets stolen, what'll actually happen? Will it hold up in the court of law? Will you get your bike back? Will the Will you have to go get a court order? There's all these unknown questions, right? But it taps into the same sort of fear places for people. So fear of getting their bike stolen. Everybody wants to tell you what they do to lock their bike up and keep it secure. Everybody and their mother, dude. The comments on that thing are so out of control.
There's so many different ways to do it.
It's just people are like weirdly passionate about telling the rest of the world how they're going to lock their bike up. And then the third piece of it is it's polarizing because it's sort of a legal gray area. Like in some states it's one way, and in other states it's a different way, and internationally it's one way. And so that's like when I first realized that's sort of the magic thing if you wanted to create.
Well, I appreciate that you don't go that direction because I agree. I would feel like morally questionable of like trying to create controversy where there isn't any, because you certainly can, and with your platform you could, I mean, you could but and I appreciate that you're doing such a good job with this podcast in a genre that's not very big. I mean, like bikepacking is still a very niche, small thing, and where you're just not going to get crazy numbers just for even producing quality content, which you're definitely doing, which so I appreciate what you're doing with this and all the great guests and conversations you've had on here. That seems like you're doing, for your own interest and for the love of the sport and the love of everything that bikepacking and endurance in general is. So
thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted a reason to come out here and talk to you in the desert, bro. When else would I be able to just be like, hey, Scott, can I show up at your campsite somewhere in some random place and we can sit and talk for 3 hours?
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet, dude. I have to admit, it's a little self-serving, but honestly, back to where we started, that Shell Money podcast, when I was listening, I was on repeat. All the episodes that Shell Money did.
He has some good ones, yeah.
While I was riding the Arizona Trail 300, and it was like a special moment of, man, I have an obligation to also do this, like capture conversations about this thing.
Yep.
Right? And all aspects of it from every angle.
Yep.
Right.
But with better production values and audio that you can actually hear.
Well, that's,
Thank you, Shell Money. Not to bag on Shell Money. I love you, Shell. But like when it's a phone call podcast, it's like,
And that was a core foundational thing with this setup was I have production experience. So like I know what I need to have a certain minimum level of quality of production. And I strongly believe in a face-to-face conversation over an online sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I will wait until I have to make it happen in person.
Yeah, you've got the patience to do it. That's cool.
Well, I don't want to put out content just for the sake of putting out content. Like, I know there's lots of other podcasts in the space that, they do video calls, and there is really great information in a lot of that stuff, right? Don't get me wrong. But, like, I feel like the future of this is video, for sure. And I know that that's what all the platforms are pushing is video podcasts. But it's also really just like, it's like I get to play with some cool equipment and I get to talk to like cool people, Yeah.
I'm glad. I knew it had to be one of those things where you're getting something out of it because,
I mean, I'm spending a lot of money on this project too. So if you want to become a member, please become a member.
Please do. Now's the time.
Now's the time. Yeah. Let's do a few rapid fire questions real quick and then we'll wrap it up. All right?
Sure.
All right. Do you have any tattoos?
No tattoos.
No tattoos. If you were going to get one, you had to get one and I was going to pay for it. What do you think it would be?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Probably something really nerdy. Like something that no one would understand what it is.
Like a 3.5-inch floppy disk?
Yeah. Yeah. Some equation or some like dumb, I don't know, something that you'd have to explain.
Right.
Yeah. Something, and it would be very small too.
Got it. So like a 1.5-inch floppy disk.
Yeah.
It's funny if you show that to young people, they're like, oh, that's the save button.
Yeah. Right.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Are you a SRAM or Shimano component kind of guy? Or something else?
I don't care either way. They both seem to work. I just bought a pivot last summer and it's got Shimano on it, 12-speed mechanical. It's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which model pivot?
The Mach 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. Love that bike.
Pivots are nice bikes, man. They're special.
Yeah.
So have you ever hit the SOS button?
I have, but not for myself.
Got it.
Yeah.
Are you at liberty to just explaining what happened?
Yeah, sure. It was, I was on a ride with my buddy Lee, and we were just exploring northern New Mexico, trying to link a couple of roads or exploring some 2-tracks and stuff. And this young girl just came like running out of the trees towards us. And, I'm like, okay, like at first I'm like, okay, it's a young woman. It's not threatening. But then I'm thinking like, what's she running from? Where's the boyfriend or where's the, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm immediately getting alarmed. And she's like, help, like we need help. And fortunately there was no boyfriend. It turned out that her mom had crashed her ATV. They own a ranch in the area, and she had tried to drive down like a steep embankment and like basically rolled her ATV, and she was injured. And so there's no cell signal in this area and they were trying to get up to either find someone, the 2 kids, the daughter and the son, either get cell signal or find someone. And so they led us back to where this woman had crashed. And then I had my inReach and I hit the 911 and was able to text back and forth as to what was happening, and ambulances en route and all that stuff. And it was it saved her time in terms of getting her extracted more quickly than she would have otherwise.
Yeah.
And turned out she was okay. Fortunately, she was fairly stable. She had some internal injuries and stuff, but and it was very instructive for me because I was like always wondered, like what happens when you're actually the one that does it, and what do they send back to you and all that. And,
many people wonder that.
Yeah.
And this is the inReach where you can Bluetooth into your phone and have the 2-way communication, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Which I think there's a point of clarification I should probably make. I had a podcast with Carol Wolgar, and she had talked about this sort of experience, and that you could kind of be routed to the right emergency services in that way. Mm-hmm. And that somebody actually contacted me and said, hey, be careful. Like some people that just have like the Spot Gen 3s, there's no way to communicate back and forth. So do you know what happens in those situations?
Yeah. I mean, we've certainly had quite a few of those over the years with Trackleaders. Okay. And it's not really my purview. That's not what I'm in charge of with Trackleaders. It goes to our first point of contact is Matthew Lee. So fortunately I'm not the one that gets, the phone calls at 2 a.m. and stuff.
Yeah.
But he's been involved in a lot of 911 SOS button hits, and mostly with spots because we only own spots. And there's a whole chain of communication that happens. And like if they can't get a hold of Matthew, the first thing they do is contact him, because you have like your emergency contacts and like maybe a description of what you're doing in the spot account, right? But if they can't reach your emergency contact or the second one, they try to figure out, is this an actual emergency first? Because sometimes it isn't, right? And they don't want to waste resources or potentially endanger people when they don't need to.
Yeah. And
sometimes quite a few of our SOSs, I would say, are, like device malfunctions or like people testing their devices at their houses, like they get a rental. They're like, oh, let's see if the SOS button works. Like that just happened.
Oh, no way.
That just happened in one of our events, and we started getting the 911 and I pull it up and I'm like, the dude is in his house in a city, like it's a house. I don't know if it was his house, but I was like, so I called him, and clearly he's like, oh yeah, I just wanted to see like what happens when I push it. I'm like, no, that's not what you do.
Wow, yeah.
So they try to contact, and then, if they can't reach Matthew, I'm the next point of contact. And then because we know what's going on generally, like we can say like, and then we give them information too. It's like, well, this is a musher who is doing this race. There's these resources. Here's the race director. You can contact them, like if you need to coordinate, that kind of thing. So there has been quite a few. And then, depends on the event, what's going on, because sometimes there is a structure. Some of the events, they don't want to know, or they don't want emergency services to be contacted before them, because they would rather try to handle situations themselves if they can, because they're already on the ground and they know what's happening. versus when the sheriffs get called in and they have to educate them as to mistakes can be made or time lost, certainly in that case. So, but like a bikepacking event or AES or something, like if somebody needs a rescue, like, yeah, send the cavalry in, because who knows, the race director, anybody that knows what's going on, they're probably out riding.
Right.
So, yeah. So it varies. There's different types of ways to handle it. But yeah, basically if they don't hear from anyone for a certain amount of time, they eventually will give up. And then that's when they, go through their whole flow chart of, depending on where the point is pinging, there's a list of people to contact, whether it's a search and rescue group or the sheriff department or whatever it is, depending on. So, yeah.
Dang. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. I think it's good to have all that information out there. It seems most people like me were like, you gotta have a bone sticking out when it's time to hit the button.
Yes.
Or be bit by a rattlesnake or whatever.
Yep.
But
not everybody feels the same.
The inReaches.
But most people do. I think most people are pretty good. I think people were really worried about frivolous SOSs in the early days of spots, and the number of legitimate rescues compared to the number of frivolous uses, I think is doesn't make you lose faith in humanity.
Yeah. You remember a few years back when Tour Divide, there was like all that weather,
mm-hmm.
and they warned people not to go out. And
there
was like a record number of spot presses.
Oh yeah, we had like 30
mm-hmm.
SOSs, 30 rescues, something like that.
What a freaking mess, man.
It was a mess, yeah. But I think in that case it was a pretty exceptional weather event, and some of them didn't get the warning and didn't really know. And yeah, I think not too many of those were frivolous. A lot of them actually were pretty legitimate. Like they had no way of getting themselves out of there with how much snow there was, and or how high the rivers had gotten in some cases.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, that was a tough.
Was that the same year that the guy had his bear spray blow up on his handlebars?
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah.
No.
I don't even know if this is true or not, but he was riding along and his bear spray, it was like in a holster on his handlebars.
It happens.
And
it
went off,
mm-hmm.
basically. And it shot him in the face.
Oof, yeah.
And he like careened off. There was a river. He was riding on a gravel road along the side of a river. I don't know all the sections of the Tour Divide, so I can't say where exactly it was, but he almost ended up in this, very cold, icy, flowing river. But he ended up in a bush next to it. He like landed in the bush, half blinded from the bear spray.
Yeah, that's
wild stuff.
Yep. Yeah, that definitely happens. No, but fortunately that year no one died. We thought we had a fatality that year. There was a guy who, a younger guy who, he same big storm, and the rivers were just absolutely raging. And on the tracker, it looked like it activated SOS, and it looked on the map like he was eddied out in the river, like he was circling
mm-hmm.
on the bank of a river, basically. And he was on the wrong side. It was on the like the route was on the west side, and he was on like the east bank, and his track before that was on the east side. So it looked like he'd either tried or fallen into the river, totally in a place where he wasn't supposed to be. And the Border Patrol told us that they claim they had so much surveillance that there was the only way he possibly could have got to that location without them knowing about it was if he was in the river, like he had been flushed down. So we're just like, oh no. Well, it turns out he had entered the country on a road. He was just way off course, way confused, and actually did enter the country technically illegally, and they didn't know about it, and was just stuck on the other side of the river, and he hit 911. So I should say that Gen 3, sometimes when they get wet, very waterlogged, sometimes they falsely activate the SOS.
Oh.
So what we thought is that he didn't actually push it, that he had fallen in, and that had activated it because it wasn't on before that. But as it turns out, they had just enough of a window. He was actually okay. They were able to helicopter in and get him before like the next round of 2 feet of snow fell, and they pulled the guy out. So that was a good rescue. Yeah.
I guess it's good if you're going to fall into a river that the thing activates an SOS instead of just shutting off
right.
and not working at all, right?
Yeah. I don't think it's by design though.
Well, but if you're going to have a failure,
it's probably a happy bug or feature,
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people wear your unit on your body, not on the bike. That's like the number one thing that I
definitely
preach.
on rivers. That is very much the case, because your boat, you often lose your boat. I've heard that
when you're running rapids and stuff on rivers. Yeah.
On a bike, but you're right. I mean, the concept still is the same.
Yeah, you could want. So after I did Stagecoach 400 and I had a whole bunch of sleep deprivation, I kept waking up for months later in the middle of the night thinking that I had wandered away from my camp, from where I had slept the one night on Stagecoach. So this was, a month later. I'm like sleepwalking, and I will wake up and I'd be like, where am I? Am I still on Stagecoach?
Wow.
And I left. There's no way for me to get back to my gear. I'd wandered away from my bike, This was sort of like my anxiety and my sleep deprivation all wrapped up into one. But it just makes me think, like, just wear it on your body, because you never know what's going to happen to you. Like,
yeah, absolutely. People get separated from their bikes quite often.
Yeah.
And that's when you more likely need a rescue. You're like looking for the trail, you ditch your bike, or you just crash and it goes down the hill. I mean, yeah, there's good reason. But I'd say a lot of people don't follow that, though.
They should.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I almost lost my bike on CTR down a thing.
Yep. Guess it wasn't much of a rapid fire answer. I forgot even what the,
it was important,
question was.
There was if you've ever hit your SOS.
Oh yeah. Yep.
These rapid fire questions have a tendency to, I don't set boundaries here on the Endurance Studio, so it's all right. Chamois or no chamois?
Definitely no chamois.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Team no chamois.
Yeah. If you can pull it off, it's the way to go. I understand that it's not for everybody, but if you can pull it off, it's so much better.
And why is that? What is better about it?
Just more comfortable, like for hike a bike and like in town, or you're walking around, and I don't know, just breathability, all those things. Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you, Team No Chamois. I'm going to make a whole controversial video about.
Good work. That's something people could get fired up about. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of my fear, what's the formula? Fear, polarizing content. And this one's personal.
Yep. You just need an AI image of some weird chamois or weird saddle sores. That's fear. Like some weird picture of a really nasty saddle
That's
sore.
A great idea.
Oh,
yeah.
That's not a good idea. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that image.
Yeah. I'll end up on some list if I start having AI generate that. Yeah. No, well, it's definitely controversial. I was going to call it the Great Chamois Scammy. Is that silly?
That's good. Yeah, I like it.
But I was gonna, play off. And I'm full disclosure here, people. This is how I'm gonna make the video if I ever make it. It's playing off the fear and also that you've been scammed for the last 150 years about putting this diaper thing on that just absorbs all your sweat and creates more problems than it solves. So yeah, I'm with you, Team No Chamois. I've been polling the audience here. Pulling the guests in the audience. All right. If you only had to pick one tire to ride for the rest of your life, which tire would you pick?
Just the one I've got on my pivot, which is what are they, Recons? Yeah. Just an all-around tire, 2.4. Mm-hmm. You can ride the chunk, you can ride the chunder, but it's not so heavy and draggy that when you have to ride a road to connect stuff, and that it doesn't feel like a tank, Yeah, it's kind of a happy medium for me right now, that size and that. Some tread, but not like a big tread.
Yeah, the Recon's a great tire.
Yep.
It seemed to kind of come on the bikepacking scene and take over the Icons and kind of filled the space of the Icon. Mm-hmm. Although Alex Schultz swears by the Icon.
I had issues. I had kept tearing Icons. I tried them for a bit, but
really,
but maybe I was running the wrong.
He tore
sidewall stuff, or
he tore a sidewall on the AZT this year. So I don't know the Recons. I've never had a sidewall tear on the Recons, but Maxxis seems like a pretty solid brand too.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah. Yep. You ever seen anything crazy out there? You spend a lot of time out here in the desert. You ever see any weird alien sightings? Weird stuff in the sky?
Just Starlink launches.
God dang it.
Yeah, people ask me that actually a lot because I camp a lot. But, no, I'm a pretty rational, science-believing guy. When I see stuff, I assume there's an explanation. Yeah.
the Starlink launches and when they all link up and go across the sky. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's wild,
dude.
Yeah, and if you didn't know what it was, like, fully understand that.
It's
like,
weird.
Yeah,
it's a foreign thing to see for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, but no, like, you know, Bigfoot, Yeti, nothing like this.
No, you know, I've had amazing luck camping for so long and not having issues with people or wildlife. Very little, you know.
Nice.
It's been good.
Yeah. Nice.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, let's wrap this up. So, where can people find you? What do you want people to know?
Nobody can find me because I move around.
There you go. He's unfindable, folks.
Yeah.
Trackleaders.com. That's the only place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where all my energy goes into, is that website. I am on Instagram, I guess. What's my Instagram? Tracking Scott.
At Tracking Scott.
At Tracking Scott. Yeah. And I post pictures of, you know, my bike rides, adventures, backcrafting stuff that I do, but yeah, just for fun.
So if people want to submit to have their race tracked, how do they do that?
Just send us an email.
Which you can find that on the website?
Yeah.
Okay.
info@trackleaders.com. Yep.
Cool.
Always up for new events.
Yeah.
Especially cool ones.
Well, dude, thank you for being the source.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bikepacking, you know, and the endurance world has given me much more than I've given it. So I feel very lucky. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, so many people owe you for what you provided for the sport. I mean, you've changed, whether you think you have or not, you've changed a lot of people's lives. You provided experiences for people that are incredibly special to them. And it's just the whole community appreciates everything you've done for it and how you continue to do it.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So, yep. So thank you. And we always go out on a cheers.
Cheers, man. Thanks for the podcast.
All right.